Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live today from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. It is a Wednesday. Will Levis in 30 minutes ahead of the game against the Chicago Bears. Ian is here today. Hello, Ian.
What up, what up?
So let's start, since it is game week, since it is time to start paying attention to week one, let's start on the Chicago Bears. Can we start on the Chicago Bears, Ian?
Please.
Let's start on the Chicago Bears. And where I want to start when it comes to the Chicago Bears is I want to start with all of the national hype that is surrounding the Bears and has been surrounding the Bears all offseason long. People think this team's actually going to be good. Can I ask you guys, when's the last time the Chicago Bears were good? And I mean like actually bona fide, legitimate, and good. I'm not talking about a 2018 Chicago Bears team that won a bunch of games with Mitch Trubisky at quarterback that was never going to win in the playoffs. You guys remember the old double doink? Not that team. That team wasn't that good. I'm not talking about the 2020 team that was the first team to be a 7th seed and make it into the playoffs. They lost to New Orleans and Drew Brees, and they were never going to win that game. But I'm talking about, when is the last time you looked at the Chicago Bears and you thought that right there is a good football team? Do we have to go all the way back to Rex Grossman at quarterback? I mean, is it what are we doing here? Now, just because the Bears weren't good in the past doesn't necessarily mean that the Bears won't be good in the future. At some point, every dog has its day. Even the Raiders have won championships in the past. But I got to say this. I'm out on the Chicago Bears hype. Now, that doesn't mean that I think the Titans are going to win on Sunday. I haven't decided that. We will make our official prediction on that on Friday. Because the Bears absolutely can win on Sunday. But as far as kind of the big picture, the 2024 season surrounding the Chicago Bears, I don't think the Bears are legit contenders for anything. And when I say anything, I mean a legitimate contender that could get into the playoffs, that could make some noise. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year, they were legit contenders. They were never going to win the Super Bowl. They weren't going to go to Detroit and beat Detroit. They weren't going to beat San Francisco. They weren't going to. But on the right day, they could have. Baker at quarterback, solid defense, 2 receivers that could run the ball. Last year, Tampa was a legitimate contender. Most 7th seeds, and not that Tampa was a 7th seed, but most 7th seeds really are not. And the first thing that popped into my mind when it comes to the Chicago Bears as to why I'm just out on them, people are going to pick the Bears. The number I think is 4.5. I think it's going to close around 6, 6.5. Every single person on all the pregame shows Sunday, they're going to pick the Bears. They're talking about the Bears. They're talking about how good Caleb can be in year one. They're saying, could he be a superstar right away? Let's start here. How many good young quarterbacks came into the league drafted number 1 overall? Not Ben Roethlisberger, drafted outside of the top 10 to a good team. But how many quarterbacks drafted number 1 overall have come into the league and taken a team by the horns and contended right away, and did it with a defensive head coach? Over the last however many years it's been, 1, Andrew Luck. Since then, Jameis Winston, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, the great Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Bryce Young. They did not. And that doesn't mean that Caleb Williams isn't going to be a good young quarterback this season or a good young quarterback down the road. But even C.J. Stroud was picked number 2 last year, and he took 11 sacks in the first 2 weeks. So again, Winston, number 1 overall. Jameis Winston was an even better college player than Caleb Williams. Jared Goff, again, he's not a bad quarterback, but his team wasn't ready to compete that first year. Baker's team was decent at the end of that year. But again, we're talking about the hype being real and contending in playoffs and Super Bowls. And that's what they're talking about. It doesn't happen very often. And even that Indianapolis team with Andrew Luck got beat by a wild card team in the first round at home in the playoffs. Burrow, it took till year 2. Manning, it took till year 2. Let's also not forget that the Bears have a defensive head coach, which is really not the record is 10-24. And if I had owned the Bears, I would have fired the head coach at the end of last year and hired an offensive-minded head coach to go with Caleb Williams. Now, this doesn't mean the Bears don't have good players. Every single team has good players except for maybe the Patriots. Like the Patriots really, I mean, they may not have a single legitimate star on their team. I'm not sure Duggar or Owenu or any of those guys are stars. That might be the one. Other than that, I mean, every other team has stars. So DJ Moore is a dog, an absolute star. Same can be said for Montez Sweat on the defense side of the ball. Jalen Johnson's very good. We know, of course, they got Kevin Byard, who's solid. Keenan Allen's got tread on the tires. Rome Odunze looks like he could be a bad man in this league. But the Chicago Bears offensive line, nah. The best player on that line might be Nate Davis. Now, Darnell Wright was taken in the top 10 last year, and he's a big old fat right tackle, which I wish the Titans had. But they didn't go with one of these tackles in the draft. They didn't trade up to try to get Joe Alt or J.C. Latham. They didn't draft Olu Fashanu or one of those guys because they wanted to go with weapons around Caleb by drafting Rome Odunze, then going with meat around Caleb. And where I think that Justin Herbert needed weapons, I think Caleb Williams needed meat. So it has absolutely nothing to do with the outcome of Sunday's game. When I sit here today and I say, I look at the Chicago Bears and I just don't see a contender. Because again, when it comes to the Titans, and I know many of you want to shock the world this year, I'm not really sure I see a contender there either. Even somebody yesterday on the YouTube chat who's a big hater of the fact that our official model of expectations picked the Titans with 5 wins this year. Ian's model was 4. Even he said yesterday on the YouTube chat, said, hey, this is a 2-year rebuild. So we know the Titans aren't contenders. But I don't want to hear about the Chicago Bears because I'm not buying it. They've got a bozo for a head coach. They've got a new offensive coordinator who was fine in Seattle, but I'm not really sure he's a superstar. And I didn't see, Geno Smith got better, but again, superstar? Not sure I actually see that. Not sure they have a good offensive line. Young quarterbacks traditionally do not come into the league right away and win. And so I'm trying to figure out where all this Chicago Bear hype came from. It's not like the Chicago Bears went to the NFC title game last year, other than the fact that they are a historic franchise who plays in a large media market. Now that makes some sense. But all of that talk about the Bears being contenders and Caleb's the man and this and that, let's not forget Caleb couldn't win in college last year, folks. Caleb couldn't even win in college 2 years ago, the year that he won the Heisman, when they had to win the Pac-12 title game to get into the playoff. So before I tune into every show across the country to tell me about how good the Chicago Bears are, I just want to tell you right now, I do not buy it. Not for 1 second am I buying the hype surrounding the Chicago Bears this year. It actually shocked me when it came to the Chicago Bears. It shocked me that they kept Matt Eberflus as their coach. It shocked me all the belly aching that there was about, well, could they keep Justin Fields and trade that pick? I'm like, the guy's in his 3rd year in the league and he's won 10 games. No. No, that's not how we do things in the NFL. So, again, I know a lot of you think the Titans are going to go on the road. They think the Titans are going to go win by 35 points. You think it's going to be the 2019 season opener all over again. And I'm here to tell you right now that I don't feel that way about the game Sunday. Again, I'm not saying you're going to win. I'm not saying you're going to lose. I haven't decided yet. But I knew that veteran Titans team in 2019, I knew that team was going on the road to Cleveland with all the hype and all of the, talk about the Super Bowl and Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. And I knew that Vrabel team, they were going to go in there. They were going to take care of business. And with Dean Pease, a veteran coordinator, they were going to show Baker Mayfield things he'd never seen before. And they did. And it led to a season where people got fired. And across the country, they couldn't believe the Browns weren't that good when the Browns were never that good to begin with. They just decided in their head the Browns were that good. That's this Bears team. And that doesn't mean that Caleb can't be a star. But he's not a star right now. This is the NFL, folks. Signing a couple of free agents, trading for Keenan Allen, does not make you a Super Bowl contender. 615-737-1025. That's how we're starting today. 615-737-1025. And I was thinking about this game on Sunday. And there's one thing that it actually kind of reminded me of. And that was bad for the Titans, but this might actually be good for the Titans. We'll get to that and your phones next. 615-737-1025. Again, Will Levis coming up at 2:30 on the program. Chris Sanders, of course, later this hour as well. Stillman and Company, 1025, 106 for the game. Oh, let's talk about FanDuel Sportsbook. That's right. I absolutely love FanDuel Sportsbook. It's my official sportsbook app, and it should be yours too. It's America's #1 sportsbook, and FanDuel has a little something different for you because now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 to get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/JGM to download America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/JGM. 21 and over and present in Tennessee. Full price of NFL Sunday Ticket will be automatically charged seasonally after free trial. No refunds. Terms, restrictions, and embargoes do apply. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
the trade to evaluating a quarterback who's never played in the league before? Like, how did you guys approach scouting Caleb this offseason?
You try to watch him play NFL football as best you can. Obviously, he played just a little bit in the preseason. I don't know that Hard Knocks give you a whole lot. I know that's out there, but I just think you have to go off of what type of player he is, the caliber of quarterback he's been over his career. And you saw glimpses of it in the preseason. I mean, he can make off-schedule plays. He can stand there and deliver balls. I mean, he's everything that a number one pick you would expect to be. And so you have to treat him as such and treat him with that kind of respect. Obviously, you have to earn that in this league. He's got to do it in regular season games. I just hope it isn't in the first week.
That was Brian Callahan talking about Caleb Williams, and get ready for it because it's only Wednesday. And as we get closer to Sunday, any commentary you see about the Titans game will be about Caleb Williams is going to be so good. By the way, did you guys see, and then maybe we'll get into this later in the week, Albert Breer, and I like Bert, but Albert Breer put out there that he talked to some people across the league about, who's your top 5 quarterback, your top 5 running back, your top 5 whatever, and that people in the NFL told him, well, at the end of the year, I'm going to want to put Caleb as a top 5 quarterback. Let's let Caleb be a top 5 quarterback, and then you can put Caleb as a top 5 quarterback. I'm not there yet. This game kind of reminds me on Sunday. I was thinking about this today. This game kind of reminds me of the Titans season opener 2 years ago. Remember when they played the New York Giants? And again, this is not a proclamation that I think the Titans are going to win. Me saying that I don't think the Bears are that good does not mean that I think the Titans are going to win. But it reminds me of the game 2 years ago, the season opener at Nissan Stadium against the Giants. And the Titans were coming off of being the number 1 seed in the AFC playoffs the year before, and they still had Derrick Henry, and they still had Ryan Tannehill. And yes, they had traded A.J. Brown, and Harold Landry had just torn his ACL. But it wasn't like we were ready to just give up on the season right then and there. Though I did say that week that they were screwed, because not for that game, but for the season. And the 2002 or the 2022 Giants were a team that everybody had completely written off before the start of the year. In fact, I think they as a team expected to be terrible. Like, I think Joe Shane and Brian Dable took that job with the idea of, we're going to suck for a year with Daniel Jones, but then we're going to move on. We're going to get a high pick. We're going to take Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud in the upcoming draft, and we're going to build our team the same way we built the team in Buffalo. Except that Giants team ended up making the playoffs. In fact, they ended up winning a playoff game. And then they had to give Daniel Jones that contract. Well, if you remember, the Titans were up 13-0 at halftime in week 1, and it felt like everybody in the building knew that Giants team was hot garbage. The problem was the Titans thought it too. And at halftime, they went outside and they took a smoke break. Don't smoke, kids. But at halftime, the Titans decided, we're so good, we don't have to worry about this team. And it caught up to them because it was only 13-0. It wasn't 33-0. And so one big Saquon Barkley run and one big Christian Fulton screw up, and all of a sudden the Giants are leading. They end up scoring. They go for 2. They get it. They win the game because big boy Randy Bullock misses the kick. And all of a sudden, that Giants team got off to a good start. And who knows, if that Titans team had won that game and had started that season at 8-2 instead of 7-3 or whatever it was, if they had started the season off that way, maybe that Titans team makes it into the playoffs. Maybe that Titans team ends up keeping it. But again, nobody, including the Titans, thought the Giants could go in week 1 and win. And that's how I feel this week is, but the shoe's on the other foot. Nobody thinks the Titans are going to Chicago to win. And I can guarantee you, they in Chicago do not think they're going there to win. Chase told me he went on Chicago radio the other day on Porth Station, and that Chase was asked about, I love Chase, and I know he's listening right now, but Chase is kind of a homer. Ian, would you agree with that?
When it comes to which team?
The local ones.
You think so?
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, Yeah, maybe a little bit.
He's always picking the Vols. He's always picking the Titans. He's always picking Vanderbilt. He's always picking the Predators. I'll never forget, we were stranded in St. Louis, Missouri, the Friday before the AFC title game in 2019 because we couldn't fly into Kansas City because it iced over on the runway. And so Chase was with us at the KMOX studios in St. Louis. And we're sitting there, and Chase picked the Titans to win the AFC title game outright. And I was like, I love you, but I can't go that far. But Chase went on Chicago radio, and he told me that he said the Titans are going to win. And they went crazy in Chicago about that. And that, again, reminds me of that Giants game in week 1. Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, 615-737-1025. One texter says, Bears fans are upset because they think their team deserves a later kickoff to start the season. Ugh. Well, first of all, the NFL is not going to put a good game on opposite Browns-Cowboys. That is Tom Brady's debut. They want everybody watching that game. Everybody will watch that game. I don't think CBS even has a good game, period, in week 1. So, I mean, look, you got the Monday night game. You're not that. But again, I would be thinking about this if I was a Bears fan. You and the Titans are not San Francisco and the Jets. You and the Titans are not Kansas City and Baltimore on Thursday night. You and the Titans are not Green Bay, Philadelphia. And what's the Sunday night game? Oh, yeah. You and the Titans are not Matthew Stafford versus the Lions. What do Bear fans think? Bear fans think this should be Jim Nantz, Tony Romo?
CBS says Jaguars, Dolphins.
But that's just that, like, if it's Storm's game.
It's a noon. Yeah.
I mean, is that what Nantz and Romo are doing this week?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure the TV broadcast crews and assignments yet.
You know what? I'm going to pull that up. First, though, Andrew texts in, and Andrew says that, let's see, Andrew says, way too early, fireball hot take. Sunday, you will see why Rand traded Kevin Byard and why the Eagles didn't keep him. And we are never going to have to hear what a dumb trade it was. Again, I'm not saying it was a dumb trade because that's what the value of Byard was across the league, was a 5th and a 6th round pick. What I think was stupid was oh my God, we just fleeced them for a 5th and a 6th round pick. Like, that's my issue. Jim Nantz and Tony Romo are Vegas at the Chargers. That is a late start.
Sounds about right.
Jacksonville, Miami is Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, Ian Eagle, and Charles Davis are doing New England, Cincinnati. Again, the Fox late game is Dallas versus Cleveland. That's Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady. So there's not a good game. I mean, unless you think you're more important than the Cowboys,
the Titans,
Chicago fans.
What'd they get? Adam Amin and Mark Sanchez, it looks like.
That might be the best crew they get for the first. I know that, but they get that second crew for the Monday night game. That might be the best crew that they get all year. I'm serious about that. I don't think there's a chance they get a good crew. Like, you ain't getting Tom Brady this year. You are not getting Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. No. Excuse me. Week 2. Week 2 is the week that you probably get your best crew because
the Jets.
Yeah, I think it's Ian Eagle in week 2.
What about the Monday Night Football?
But that's going to be that second
doubleheader.
Crew.
Yeah, well, they're still pretty good.
No, they're not. Chris Fowler and Orlovsky?
Sure. Fowler is good.
Well, I don't think Fowler will be doing it because Fowler will be doing college still at that point. So
McDonough?
Ugh.
He's not bad.
Ugh. Unbelievable. I can't do that. Texter says the Bears hype is because of what happened in Houston. Everybody is trying to predict that again. I'm a Bears fan, but I agree with you. We're probably 3rd or 4th in the division. Yeah. I mean, first of all, Sam Darnold is going to do things in Minnesota this year. You guys be ready. But you're not better. We're talking about Chicago. They're not better than Green Bay, and they're definitely not better than Detroit. So where's all this Chicago hype coming from? That I struggle with. Like Ian trying to claim that Dan Orlovsky broadcast crew is a good crew. Your standards, Ian, we got to step those up. You know you're not getting Joe Buck, by the way, for the Dolphins game. I'm serious. I mean, that's week 2. That might be the best crew you get all year.
The doubleheader game. Yeah, the Monday Night Football doubleheader.
Yeah.
You get the second crew. Yeah. Okay.
The second crew's always sucks, and the Titans always get them, and they always suck.
Yeah, but they're not terrible.
615-737-1025. They are terrible. Will Levis at the podium coming up next here on the program. Let's talk about Window Nation. Did you know that most of your home's cold AC this summer is leaked out through old windows? Yeah, that's not good. With all the nice weather coming in September, that's a great time to replace those old windows with energy-efficient ones and save money on heat this winter. If you are thinking about replacing your windows, if you are thinking about adding that value to your home, trust the group that I trust. It's Window Nation. There are tons of companies out there that would love to do great work for you, but I know Window Nation, and I know they're an honest, reputable company. That's why I had no problem giving Trevor their info saying you got to call them. And for every 2 windows you'll buy, you'll get 2 free. There's no limit on how much you could save, and there's 0 down, no interest or payments for 24 months. Buy 2 windows, you'll get 2 windows free. That's right. It's as simple as that. And again, 0 down, no interest or payments for 24 months. Schedule the free in-home estimate by calling 866-90-NATION. That's 866-90-NATION, or visiting windownation.com. That's windownation.com. Be sure to join us for the award-winning pregame show. That's right. The award-winning pregame show is back with the award winners, with Chris Sanders, Jared Stillman, and Derek Mason. Maybe in that order, maybe not. Live at Twin Peaks in Cool Springs this Sunday from 9:30 to 11:30 for the pregame show, where we break down the Titans and the Bears. The award-winning pregame show is presented by Sundeck Nashville and Parman Tractor and Equipment. Speaking of Sundeck Nashville, I wish I knew about them last year. When I had some serious deck work I had to get done, Sundeck would have been exactly who I would have called. I was looking for somebody like that, so I'm glad they're on board, and I'm glad I know about them now, which makes me very, very excited. Will Levis at the podium here momentarily. We will get to that when he gets up there. Chris Sanders later this hour. But instead, let's get to some of your phones on the game on Sunday, 615-737-1025. Coy in Clarksville says, called shot. The Titans will have 6 sacks against Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is going to find out that dancing in the pocket like he did at USC doesn't work in the NFL. I just got to tell you, before you get too caught up in saying things like that. The best quarterback in the league does play that way. And Williams also plays that way. And I think that's the kind of thing that is probably keeping Brian Callahan awake at night, which is, hey, we may have a great defense called, but all of a sudden Caleb starts doing his dancing around, and all of a sudden things break down. Because while Awuzie and Snead and McCreary are all supposed to play, I mean, you can't cover Roma Dunze and DJ Moore and Keenan Allen forever. And so I know it's fun to say, this won't work in the pros, but it is working for the best quarterback in the pros. And that's why I would not just say, oh, no, they're going to sack him 6 times. And can I ask, by the way, who's going to do the sacking 6 times? T'Vondre Sweat doesn't sack the quarterback, though he may help other people sack the quarterback. And maybe T'Vondre Sweat gets back there. I don't know. But Simmons is not a 10-sack guy. Key is not a 10-sack guy. Landry might be able to get you a sack or 2. Matt from Fairview says, I think the argument from the national media as far as the Bears are concerned is that they feel pieces around Caleb Williams are more equipped than any other team that was picking number 1. And some people would argue that given the fact that the Bears weren't picking number 1 last year because they were the worst team in the league, but because of the great trade they pulled off with Carolina before the 2023 draft, that's why Chicago's in good shape. Except that team still sucked last year. They might not have been picking first, but they weren't picking 26th. They were picking 10th. They missed the playoffs. Their quarterback they put out there was worth a 6th-round pick to go be the backup to Russell Wilson, who freaking blows. They won like 7 games. Their head coach has 10 wins in his career. He has 10 wins. So, again, I understand the idea of, wow, Caleb Williams to go with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and DeAndre Swift and Montez Sweat and Roma Dunze and Cole Kmet. Their left tackle, Braxton Jones, is an average best left tackle at best. That's not good enough. So when you talk about, they've got the pieces around him to be successful, Braxton Jones is not what C.J. Stroud had last year when he had Laramie Tunsil. There's a big difference. Montez Sweat is a good player. Is Montez Sweat Will Anderson, who was a big part of the Texans last year? And not only that, the Texans, I hate to say it, but the Texans didn't play in a division last year that had Detroit and Green Bay. I think what this is, and I think it's kind of similar to Trevor Lawrence and the hype that surrounded Trevor Lawrence after the division year, where everyone was like, Lawrence is the next guy. Lawrence is going to ascend this year. This is going to be like Manning in year 2. This is going to be like Burrow in year 2. This is going to be, with Lawrence entering year 3, he's going to be awesome. You'll watch, you'll see, and he wasn't that. Now, some of that was because he might have gotten hurt. Some of that is because Christian Kirk got hurt, whatever. But again, when it comes to Lawrence, when it comes to why he hasn't ascended, the reality for me is he's just not that good. But it's hard for people to stomach because everybody's been told since that 2019 championship game when he and Clemson, back when Clemson was good, he and Clemson just went absolutely ham in the national title game against Alabama. He was like 17 years old at the time. So everybody was like, oh my God, he's going to be incredible. And so because he was picked so high and had all the hype, everybody just assumed that it was true. With Caleb, that's kind of where I sit, which is everyone wants to say, well, Caleb, he's going to go in right away, be a superstar. Was Jameis? Was Bryce Young? Was Baker? Were those guys superstars right away? And Caleb carries a purse. One texter into the text line says, I'm fortunate enough to be going to another away season opener. Last year, I really thought the Titans were going to win. I'm feeling deja vu where I think we'll win, but this team has let me down so much that I can't help but expect the Titans to lay another egg. I hate to say it, that kind of sounds like a personal problem. I went to the game last year, thought they were going to win. They didn't win, and I was so hurt after it was over. And now I'm worried that I'm going to go to the game, and I'm going to expect them to win, and they're not going to win, and I'm going to be so hurt after the fact. That team that played New Orleans last year is almost nothing like this team that's playing Chicago. I mean, that team that played New Orleans last year had Andre Dillard at left tackle, Skoronski at left guard, okay, Brewer at center, Brunskill at right guard, Hubbard at right tackle, Tannehill at quarterback, Burke starting at wide receiver, Henry at running back, which I kind of wish that they had Derrick Henry at running back. But you know how I feel about Tony Pollard. I'm all aboard the Tony Pollard train. Stop trying to sell me on a two-back system. Give me Tony Pollard. Run the ball. But again, it's just an entirely different team. And so to sit there and to take the New Orleans game from last year and say, I bet it's gonna happen again, Jared. I'm like, there's no way to know. And I know you guys think that because I've been so hard on the Titans and the right tackle situation and everything else, I know you guys are probably sitting there thinking like, oh yeah, he's going to pick the Bears on Friday. And I might. But I am dead serious, hand on a Bible, dead serious, telling you that I don't know who I'm going to pick to win. That I couldn't tell you. One texter says the guy who goes to all the away games must be rich because nosebleed tickets are $250 plus for this game. This game does have a very 2019 Cleveland Browns vibe to it. Although, again, that game, that 2019 Cleveland Browns season opener, one of my buddies from high school, has a job or had a job at the time. I still don't really know what he does. And it's something with healthcare and consulting and something I don't totally know. Anyway, he went to the Cleveland opener in 2019. And he is rich, so he does have the money to pay all the tips. But he was telling me, he's like, the prices for this game are ridiculous. He said the noise in the stadium was out of control. But that game did have Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. So I do have to give them credit. It had Nantz and it had Tony Romo. This game has Adam Amin and Mark Schlereth. Isn't that's the crew that did the Titans in Carolina last
Mark
year.
Sanchez.
Well, I guess they moved Schlereth off that team. I guess. Surprising. I mean, I thought Schlereth was okay.
I don't know. Adam Amin did Chicago's preseason games. So could wonder about a little bit of a homer factor there.
Well, he'll know all the players, that's for sure. But I think Charles Davis is doing your week 2 game. And I know there's a homer factor when it comes to Charles. Charles thinks the Titans are going 17-0. The way you listen to him talk about the Titans. Apparently, the guy who texted in about the deja vu feeling says that he's 0-5 when going to Titans road games. Again, that is a personal problem. The last Titan road game I think I went to was the Thursday night game against Green Bay, and it was the last moment in my heart where I knew that the Titans were good. The Thursday nighter at Green Bay. Those were the good old days. For whatever it's worth. Adam in Portland has been hitting the Budweiser too early today. Says the Titans are going 33-17. You know what you guys should do? Instead of texting me and saying the Titans are going to win 33-17, which, again, I don't know what I'm going to pick on Friday, but it ain't going to be that. Because if you're going to win, I think you're going to win because of defense. As crazy as that sounds with a game that's hyped up with Caleb Williams and everyone's, oh, Caleb, he's so good. And you guys are so excited because the Titans went out and got 2 new receivers and a new running back and a new tackle and everything else. If they win the game, I think it's going to be on defense. But instead of texting me and calling me, go call Chicago and say, I think the Titans are going to win 33-17. and give your reasoning there, because I would love to know how they're going to handle that. Because I think the guys that are on the radio in Chicago, I think they're homers. Because I remember the last guy that they had from Chicago, and he went on TV and he said, look, I was wrong. I thought Mitch Trubisky was the guy. And I was wrong, and I thought Justin Fields was the guy. But I know Caleb Williams is the guy. And I'm like, at some point, I say this when it comes to divorce. Like, you get married the first time, you think you're going to be together forever. You love each other. You feel like this is it. You get married, and then it doesn't work out. Look, that happens roughly half the time. Then the second time, you say, you know what, I was too immature when that happened. That wasn't right for me. We were going different places in life. I get it. This happens. You find somebody else. You marry them. Then it doesn't work. Well, when you approach the third marriage, at some point, don't you think to yourself, you know what? Maybe I need to think about this for me, and not on Chicago radio. On Chicago radio, the same guy that was like, we need to decide today, are you in or are you out on Justin Fields? And I'm in. A year later is like, Caleb. Oh, Caleb. So when you have these takes that the Titans are going to win by 20 points, go call Chicago radio and see what happens. Because I guarantee you, all they're thinking about there is, we're going to win by 100. And I just don't think either is accurate. All right, I was going to try to give this whole Will Levis thing a chance. The idea that the Titans had that Will Levis was going to be speaking at 2:30 every week. And I was like, maybe we can fit it in, and then maybe we can. But I can promise you that there is nothing that is going to be, A, seriously informative from Will Levis, other than, we're really, really excited to go out there and play, and B, more entertaining from Will Levis than what Chris Sanders is about to say. So if Will Levis says anything interesting, we'll pass it along. Chris Sanders joins us next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025 here on the program. It's Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106 for the game. Stillman and Company here on the program. Tune into 102.5 The Game this Saturday for Vandy football. The Commodores take on Alcorn State at home with pregame beginning at 5, kickoff at 6:30. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Diego Pavia continues his quest for the Heisman. So Randy texts into the show, and he says, not sure if you listened to Robbie and Rex Rhodes' interview with Dave Wanstead. I love how he says the color guy for the Bears. Dave Wanstead's the old coach. You guys don't remember when Dave Wanstead coached? God, I'm an old pawpaw now, Ian.
Yeah, you are.
I mean, that's Dave Wanstead. That's not like Dave McGinnis, who was an assistant linebacker coach here. I mean, I'm talking about he was the coach.
Yeah, he was.
That would be like saying, I don't know if you heard Jeff Fisher, the color analyst. He's the coach. Anywho, and Fisher and Wanstead, very similar. Both sucked. Listening to him, you'd think that we were going to be playing a combination of the Patriots at their prime and last year's Kansas City Chiefs. It was so sickening. He believes Caleb Williams had the football IQ of a 7 or 8 year veteran. Also, the last number one pick to win his first game in the league was like 2002 or something crazy. That was David Carr in the inaugural game for the Houston Texans. They beat the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Ian, can you grab some Dave Wanstead audio? I want to hear what old Pawpaw has to say and see if that texture's accurate before I laugh about
kind of
days.
accurate. Yeah, I'll find it though. I heard it. I did. Yeah. He just said he, doesn't act like a rookie when it comes to processing.
No, well, that's a little different than, oh my God, the Bears are so good. Chris Sanders joins us now in the program here on Wednesday. So Chris,
yeah,
I got to start with this, and you got to help me out here. Brought to you by Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Are you buying the Chicago Bears hype that the national media has decided because they were not terrible last year, though they weren't good, but they drafted Caleb Williams? Do you look at this team and think that is a Super Bowl contender?
I'm going to say they're going to be an okay team. I know the first game for the Tennessee Titans, we're going against the Chicago Bears, going to be tough because they're, they got new coaches, they got new players, they got a new regime, and everybody's excited about the first game. But I'm not going to crown them yet because you still have a rookie quarterback. I mean, everybody knows he has a great talent. Everybody knows he has a great arm. Everybody knows that. This ain't college no more. The defenses are different. The blitzes are coming from different ways. Guys are moving, and it's going to be a different kind of atmosphere. So I'm not saying that they can't do it, but you still got to remember this is still a rookie quarterback.
Chris, do you feel – I know you feel good about the Titans, but why do you feel good about the Titans going into this game? Because there are some question marks, and nobody outside of Nashville would be picking this team to win.
You know what? There's a lot of question marks, and I'm going to start with number one. Life without Henry, but life without Henry, you got Pollard and Spears. And then the second question a lot of people want answered, can Levis live up to the expectation? Those are the questions that needs to be answered. And also, we talk about the offensive line. Is the offensive line improved with Cushenberry, Skoronski, and Latham and Radin? Those are a lot of questions that need to be answered. But in my opinion, I think this team is going to be really good, not just because they have a whole bunch of talent. It's just a different attitude, and it's a different feel. When I went out to practice, a couple of times this year, it seems like everybody's on the same page. The coaches are on the same page. The general manager on the same page. I know sometimes we do a little play acting, but I went out there firsthand to actually see that Rand Carthon in cahoots with, Brian and all the other coaches. I think that's the reason why they're going to be successful in the AFC South.
So why does that matter this year when last year none of that mattered?
I mean, because the thing about it is you can have a lot of talent, but if nobody's on the same page, I'm not saying last year they wasn't on the same page. It's just that there was so much disarray. A lot of stuff wasn't focused on the play. It was focused on who's the general manager, who's doing this, who's in charge. But now everybody established that. Everybody knows who's in charge. Everybody knows who's a general manager. Everybody knows who's a head coach. Now let's just play football. And I just think it makes a difference when everybody's not just buying in, but trusting in.
How good do you think Caleb Williams is right now?
I mean, it's hard to say because it's a preseason. When you get in preseason, guys, the defensive coordinators are not going to send a lot of exotic blitzes because they don't want to actually put it on film. I guarantee you that the Denard Wilson, the defensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans, he saved a lot in the tank. He didn't show a lot of blitzes. I know he showed a lot of dog blitzes. That's when you blitz off the edge. But a lot of exotic blitzes where you're sending safeties and cowboy blitzes when you're blitzing off the wide receiver in the boundary corners blitzing. He didn't show all of that. But I guarantee you when we play and a rookie sees all that, I'm going to see how he responds. I'm buying that he's going to be a good quarterback. but I'm not buying that he's actually ready yet because he hasn't seen a lot of these defenses.
Chris Sanders is with us. What makes you confident, if you are confident, that Will Levis is ready for all of that when Will Levis only has 9 games of starting experience under his belt?
He's getting better. And I know that sounds kind of cliche-ish. Watching last year, he didn't come in as a starter. He came in as the backup. Now he's a starter. And just watching his mechanics, just watching, taking ownership of his offense. I know that sounds like a lot of coach talk, but those are the kind of the things that I watch in the maturation of a quarterback. Just watching his body language. Can he lead? Can he pick up the blitzes? Can he throw the ball in a tight window? Can he anticipate where the blitz is coming? Those are the things that I actually saw at the beginning of camp. He kind of struggled later in the camp, but I think he's ready to take this team to some victories.
Chris, are you nervous at all? Chris Sanders is with us, presented by Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Chris, are you nervous at all about the offensive line? Montez Sweat's in there. We know DeMarcus Walker is not a great player, but he's a very solid player. When he was on the Titans, that's probably one they shouldn't have let get away. And we know what they've got when it comes to Jalen Johnson at corner and Kevin Byard at safety. And does it make you nervous, the offensive line, now that this is a real game? Preseason they looked okay, but those were all backups. Does it make you nervous with the offensive line against the Bears?
Just a little bit. I mean, I know Cushionberry's a veteran. You got Skaronski, you got Latham that's on the left. I mean, he's still a rookie. But the one thing that kind of concerns me is the right side of the offensive line. I mean, you got Radens and Nicholas, a.k.a. PT. It still kind of concerns me because they're still unproven. And I say that in a respectful way. I'm not saying they're not capable of doing it, but they're still unproven. Look how many games that Radens has played in. Look how many games that Nicholas Petit, a.k.a. PT. They're still unproven. And until I say that right line is solidified is when they're proven. When they're in the heat of battle, when they're beating the Chicagos, they're beating the Jets, they're beating all the teams that they're playing, then now I can have really, really confidence in the offense. I'm not saying that I don't believe in them. I'm just saying that they don't have a lot of experience.
Chris Sanders with us. Do you believe that if the Titans win on Sunday, that they'll have a good season, that it will set the tone for the season? Do you think how important is a win Sunday for where this season goes one way or another?
I think it's huge. I mean, the reason why I say it's huge is because you look at last year, all the games they lost, you still have a bad taste in your mouth. I mean, you go, 6-11 and, just disarray and so many things that are going so wrong. But then you got a game where you have a clean slate. Everything is clean. You got all these great things are in front of you. You go to Chicago where they have everything that's going in their favor. They got the quarterback. They got the defense. They got wide receivers. They got all the things that everybody's talking about them. You go down there and you run through their lips and not just beat them, but, run through their doggone face. You don't think that when you come back and play the Jets at home, you don't think you're going to have a lot of confidence. So that's why I really say that this game right here, I'm not saying it's the most important game of the year. It's very, very important to start your season off fast and have confidence playing the next games coming up.
Last one for you, Chris Sanders, on our program. If the Titans win on Sunday against the Bears, what will be the reason that the Titans find a way to win?
I think the reason is going to be is two things. It's going to be Will Levis, number one, and the offensive line. I mean, those are the glaring things. Everybody's talking about Will Levis, and he's coming to his own, and he's going to make plays. He's tough, and he's been making the throws. But then you got an offensive line that has good players on it, but still unproven. So if they can, protect Will Levis and give him time to throw the football, and then also open up those running lanes and inside zone and outside zone for Pollard and Spears, then I think they can definitely be successful. It all depends on Will Levis and the offensive line.
Chris Sanders will be with us.
Let's go.
Sunday.
Award-winning. What?
We will be live from Twin Peaks and Cool Springs for the award-winning pregame show.
Go.
Chris, we finally made it.
We made it, man. I'm so glad that football's here. I'm tired of looking at hockey and the Olympics. I'm ready to go. Let's go.
I will say this. The optimism that you have for this game on Sunday, we shall see how this goes down.
You know, Papa Sanders is going to say some crazy stuff. You already know that.
Uncle Crazy Chris, as always, on the program. Chris.
Appreciate you, brother.
We'll
Love you, brother.
Soon.
All right, my man. Bye-bye.
Chris Sanders, presented by Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. And again, will be part of the pregame show. He says it'll be because of Levis and the line if they win. I think it'll be because of the defense if they find a way to win. 615-737-1025. Plus, speaking of Levis, there is something Tom Brady said. And it's something that I firmly believe in, and I thought would have been great for Levis. But the Titans didn't do it. And I worry what it means. for the future. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. So if you know me at all, you know I love Tom Brady. It was almost like a day of mourning when Tom Brady announced he was retiring from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then when he came back, I was happy. I wasn't so happy because I wanted him to be on the Titans, but I could accept it. I was happy to watch a year of Tom Brady play football. It was terrible to watch Tom Brady on that horrible Bucs team that year, and he willed them into the playoffs. And then when Brady announced he was retiring again, my heart broke. And I'm so glad that we get Tom Brady calling games on TV, even if he never calls a Titans game, because I'm the only person in the world who thought that Greg Olsen blabs too much and don't think he's very good. But Tom Brady, as part of his Fox deal, I guess he has to do weekly interviews with Colin Cowherd, or at least quarterly interviews or something, because he went on Colin Cowherd yesterday, and Colin asked him a bunch of questions. And there was one in particular. Colin asked him about Drake May, the Patriots rookie. You know, Drake May will sit behind Jacoby Brissett. We all know Jacoby Brissett is no good when it comes to being a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's had about 15 chances, and he's blown them all. But he's going to start. And Drake May, who I think is 22, is going to sit on the bench. And you know me, I like that. And this is what Tom Brady said when he was asked by Colin, would you start Drake May in New England? And because you know Brady, he's one of these football guys. He don't want to farm anybody's land. And you know if Tom Brady says, oh, yeah, they should sit him, that's going to be A1 headline kind of thing. Brady talked about young quarterbacks in general. Here's what he said.
So, I mean, I've gone on record to say that I think it's best, in my opinion, for young quarterbacks or rookie quarterbacks to kind of watch a veteran do it. And there's so much that goes on, and quarterbacks need to process so much information so quickly. And I think if you can have someone, I sat behind Drew Bledsoe my first year, what a great player he was, someone that I got to watch and learn from. Aaron Rodgers watched behind Brett Favre. Patrick Mahomes watched behind Alex Smith. So when you have a real pro in front of you, they can help with that learning curve, even though that young quarterback isn't necessarily going out there and losing confidence in what his abilities are. So, you know, ultimately those young players are going to get opportunities. The franchises need those young quarterbacks to come in and take a big step and lead that franchise on into the future.
Right.
I just like to give them a little bit of time to acclimate themselves to the pro game, the pro schedule. And it's a big difference between college football and professional football.
Okay. Brady says, I think it's better off the quarterback sit. And let's think about this too. When it comes to the greatest quarterback who ever lived, that man right there said, it was a big part of my development that I watched Drew Bledsoe, the best quarterback in the game, Mahomes. He brought up Aaron Rodgers, first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, even the best quarterback in the Tennessee Titans history, Steve McNair, sat on the bench behind Chris Chandler for 2 years. There is something to be said for sitting. We just don't have a lot of patience anymore. And hearing Brady talk about how different playing quarterback in the NFL is compared to playing quarterback in college, listening to Brady talk about how important he thought it was that he sat behind Drew Bledsoe, and knowing how important I think it is for young quarterbacks when they're not ready to sit, makes me worry that maybe the Titans ruined Will Levis last year with all of their bad decisions. It does feel like the Titans are trying to make up for lost time. Again, you can't go back and correct the mistake from last year. You can't go back to this time last year and not sign Andre Dillard. That milk has been spilt. But at the same time, I do wonder if that lack of foresight that the Titans had, and this starts all the way at the top with ownership, but I do wonder if the lack of foresight they had going into 2023 is going to hurt them with their young quarterback in 2024 and 2025 and beyond. Yes, hiring Brian Callahan was the right thing to do for a young quarterback. Yes, signing Tyler Boyd, even though I'm sure the Titans would have loved to completely cheap their way out of that one and tell themselves that they can get by with NWI and Burks, it was the right thing to do. Drafting a tackle was the right thing to do. So they've made some good steps this year. Not all great. We're going to watch them roll the dice on Sunday with PT at right tackle. I still don't know, should the Titans have been more proactive, when it comes to some of the other things that they did offensively, right guard, etc. Should they have spent more money? But I keep going back to 2023. And you can blame the bad decisions on Mike Vrabel all you want. But again, I think that some of these decisions, including the one of whether or not Mike Vrabel should have been the coach, I think that kind of starts at the top. And I go back to the bad decisions that the Titans made last year. I am on record having said, and I have no idea if Anthony Richardson is going to be good or not. For some reason, Ian, people think Anthony Richardson is going to suck. I don't know where this is coming from. But
well, I don't know. He's been a little up and down in preseason, I guess, this year.
Okay, preseason. So I get people that are like, ha, 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 you loved Anthony Richardson and he sucks. I'm like, well, let's, let him play another game. Like, let's let him play more than 4 games in his career. Let's let that happen. And then we can worry about whether Anthony Richardson sucks. But I have gone on record, and I have said that if I were the Indianapolis Colts, the second I would have drafted him, I would have started at the combine, which is before free agency. I would have said I'm drafting him with the 4th pick. Then I would have signed Gardner Minshew, or I would have tried to convince Matt Ryan to stay, one or the other. And I would have made that guy the quarterback, and I would have drafted Richardson, and I'd have gone to the podium, and I'd have said, Anthony Richardson is our starting quarterback, is our backup quarterback. Gardner Minshew is our starting quarterback. And I said the day after they drafted Levis, remember, Vrabel went down there and said, on Monday at OTAs, Ryan will be the starter, Malik will be the backup, and Will be the 3rd string, which was such a Richard Vrabel thing to do. I would have said Ryan Tannehill's the starting quarterback and been done with it. But they didn't. And then when it went to the decisions they made, Dillard and Brewer and PT and all the decisions they, did or didn't make last year, for whatever reason it was, and it ain't the salary cap because the salary cap is crap. But for whatever reason, the Titans decided to go cheap in free agency last year. The guy they spent the most money on, I think, was Andre Dillard, and that was an unmitigated disaster. The offensive line coach that they let Vrabel hire had the best interview of all time, even though the guy couldn't coach. And next thing you know, Ryan Tannehill, 6 weeks into the season, is standing there in London on crutches. And now Levis has to play. And so I do wonder, again, going back to Tom Brady saying, hey, it takes a lot to be quarterback in the NFL. And I want these young guys to sit. I think young quarterbacks need to sit. Tom Brady said. Brady sat. Mahomes sat. Aaron Rodgers sat. McNair sat. A lot of quarterbacks sat. It makes me fear that even though the Titans went out and got a left tackle this year, even though the Titans went out and got an accomplished offensive line coach, even though the Titans went out and got a guru head coach, even though the Titans, did they do enough damage last year to Levis to make everything they've done since then not worth it? Even right tackle. Mike McGlinchey came out in free agency last year. I have it on pretty good authority, and I've never backed down on this. Mike McGlinchey from San Francisco wanted to be on the Titans. They weren't interested. They didn't have a right tackle last year. It ended up being Radence for most of the year. And that was just a microcosm of how bad the offensive line was. Which again takes me back to, did that mistake last year, you don't have a right tackle right now, did that mistake last year hurt you this year? Is it too late? And I hope it's not. But I truly believe, had the Titans continued on the path they were on last year, being cheap, Vrabel Howdling, Dillard, etc., Will Levis would never have a shot to succeed. Would never have a chance. So between Levis playing when he should have been sitting and playing behind a horrible offensive line and being coached by subpar coaches, I worry the Titans may have done some damage that might be too late to fix. I hope I'm wrong. I hope this is Sean McVay grabbing the Jared Goff bull by the horns. I hope his time behind Tannehill last year was enough. And I hope Bill Callahan can save the line. But I am nervous. And that's why I think you're always better off sitting the young quarterback, especially when your team is not ready to compete. And I understand things aren't always going to be perfect, Jared. I understand that. But it's not very hard to get much better than what they had in front of them last year. And I'm also not convinced that what they put in front of Marcus in terms of coaching and offensive line and everything else year one, I'm not convinced that did not contribute to why he didn't make it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Speaking of Tom Brady, there's another thing Tom Brady said yesterday that did take off on social media with Titan fans. And this is why it might end up being bigger than just Levis, even though the most important thing is Levis. We'll get to that coming up next. FanDuel Sportsbook is my official sportsbook app, and I love FanDuel Sportsbook. And you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel Sportsbook, which is America's #1 sportsbook and my official sportsbook app. Well, guess what? They have something a little different for everyone, because now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and thus you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/JGM to download America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/JGM to download FanDuel Sportsbook. 21 and over in present and Tennessee. Full price of NFL Sunday Ticket will be automatically charged seasonally after free trial. No refunds, terms, restrictions, and embargoes apply. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
What have you seen from Will that tells you he's ready for this moment?
Everything he's done so far, he's ready for the moment. There's no question in my mind. He's going to have to play well for us, obviously, but just his demeanor, his confidence, his comfort with the offense, all of those things have shown that he's ready to go play football. And I can't wait to see it, and I'm excited for him too to be able to show people how far he's come as well. So it's exciting for both of us in that regard.
There you go. That was Brian Callahan talking about Will Levis. Hey, I'm a believer in the moment. I'm a believer that Levis is ready for the moment. I think he's the guy. He's this, he's that. Let me say this. We'll see. I hope he's the guy. I hope he gets paid $250, $280, $300, however much. $300 million. I don't care. I hope he's that guy. I asked him a question at the start of training camp when I'm like, have you ever done that thing where you've kind of thought about, hey, how many opportunities do you really get in the NFL, to go prove you're the guy? And if you do prove you're the guy, you're a $55 million a year quarterback. I keep bringing up Jordan Love. Jordan Love was 3-6 last year, and they were 6-8. And they went on they played Carolina, and they won by 3. And they didn't lose again until the division round of the playoffs. Jordan Love's a $55 million a year quarterback. If they lose that Carolina game, they won by 3. Jordan Love might be the backup in Green Bay. Jordan Love might not even be in Green Bay. It might be like Sam Howell, where it's like, hey, we're going to draft the young quarterback. We don't want you behind the young quarterback. We'll give you away to somebody for nothing. And there's kind of a big gap there. So there was something that Tom Brady said in his Colin Cowherd interview yesterday that a lot of Titan fans on Twitter were, oh, yes, he's already proven this. This is what Tom Brady said when talking about young quarterbacks becoming the guy.
When you're looking at starting quarterbacks in the NFL, everybody should be able to throw the ball well. Everybody should be able to drop back and make accurate throws. It's what can you do when you're on the road in front of 70,000 people, and every single player in the offensive huddle is looking you in your eyes going, does this guy have the confidence in himself to bring us back when we're losing in the fourth quarter? And I think that's the mark of what I see in quarterbacks. When I watch them, I want to say, okay, does this guy have the maturity? Does he have the poise? Does he have the composure to be at his best when his team needs him the most?
Tom Brady doesn't care how far he can throw the ball. In fact, most people don't care how far you can throw the ball, or else Joe Milton would have been the number 1 pick. Tom Brady doesn't care how many yards you throw for in a game. Tom Brady doesn't care what your fantasy stats are. Tom Brady didn't care about any of that. What was he talking about right there? Winning the game. Titan fans heard Brady say that, and they said, Levis proved in Miami last year that he can be that guy. Well, he proved that he can be that guy. But he didn't prove that he is that guy. Because for every Miami game in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes to go where Levis made plays, there's the Pittsburgh game in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes to go where Levis tried to throw the ball to the other team 3 times, and he successfully did it on the last throw. There was Indianapolis at home where Levis led them back, and they missed an extra point, and Levis led them to a field goal in overtime, and the defense couldn't hold. There was the JV Texans game where the offensive line allowed 7 sacks in the second half, and thus in overtime, he couldn't win. This is why the rest of the team is so important. This is why you go get L'Jarius Sneed and Chidobe Awuzie and Tavondre Sweat and Ernest Jones and Quandre Diggs, etc. Because maybe with those guys, Levis does win the JV Texans game. And he does win the Indy game at home. They get a stop against the Steelers at the end of the game. I believe it was Kenny Pickett who quarterbacked that game. They get a stop at the end of the game instead of letting Pittsburgh just go right down the field and score a touchdown. And so they win the JV Texan game. They win the Indy game. They win the Pittsburgh game. Now how do we feel about Will Levis? 4 fourth quarter comebacks. 4 game-winning drives. 4. You see what I'm saying? And that's how we would feel about him. But I'm asking you, how do you think they would feel about him? His teammates. How do you think they, the media, the rest of the league, how do you think they'd feel about him? And so last year, all of the blame can be put on everybody else. He was a rookie. The blame's on everybody else in Carolina. The jury is out with Richardson in Indianapolis because he got hurt. And here the blame is on Vrabel and the rest of the team. So, again, my point is, what really matters is, can Levis win enough games this year by whatever means it takes? It doesn't matter how hard you can throw the ball. It doesn't matter where you were drafted. It doesn't matter how many yards you throw for. Ian, off the top of your head, how many yards does Brock Purdy throw for every game?
Every game?
Yeah, average.
Low 200s.
Nobody has any idea, but he wins. That's where we are with Levis. And when Brady says, your team looks at you in the eye and they think, can we win in the fourth quarter? Levis proved in the Miami game last year that he can do it. I said that day after he did it, I said, it showed that he has it in him to be the guy. It does not show that he is the guy. And those are two very different things. But that's why the whole team is so important. And that's why it's important that, hey, before Levis does make $300 million, it's on everybody to put him in a position to where he can prove to you at the end of a game that he is the guy, and everybody does their job so that he only has to do what he has to do. Could Brady have won a Super Bowl against Kurt Warner and the greatest show on turf Rams by throwing for 140 yards if his defense didn't get a pick six? Could they have done it if they didn't hold the Rams in check until the fourth quarter? If you asked Brady in that time in his career to throw for 350 yards, he wouldn't have been able to do it. So the Titans have to do their best so that when those moments come, when Levis is in the huddle and it's, hey, go win us the game Sunday at Chicago, it's not more difficult than it needs to be. Think about it like playing a video game. I used to play the sports games growing up. I was never really like a Call of Duty guy. I was never a alpha team, go. I was never that guy. I had a roommate, played pro baseball. He's now a coach in the Yankee system. And he used to, during the offseason when he was playing baseball, he used to sit there on the couch. And Matt Cook, who's pitched a little bit in the big leagues, he would be there with him at the apartment. And I'd walk in after getting back from work. I'd walk in the front door and it'd be, alpha team, go. I never did that. But I did play the sports games. And the sports games had the difficulty settings, right? Rookie, veteran, all-star, Hall of Fame, whatever. And so you can make the difficulty easier on yourself or harder. Where Levis is in his career, in order to do what Tom Brady's talking about, the Titans as an organization have got to make the difficulty setting for him in these games as easy as they possibly can. And then everybody's opinion will change based on one thing at that position: winning and losing. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll get to your phones next here on the program. Something Levis had to say just moments ago. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5-106.3 The Game. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I had a talk with them today. I've got Hiller coming out to the house, and I've got Hiller working on the HVAC units. I got Hiller working on the electrical. I got to get power to a certain part of the house. I got Hiller coming out because I'm thinking about doing other things. I got Hiller working on the whole home. That's because I love them. They do great work. They're very easy to use. They're very easy to talk to send out different technicians or project managers or whatever it may be. Hiller has you covered. And I've talked about Hiller for years now and how it feels like being part of a family. And this month, Hiller is treating you like family with their Friends and Family Savings event. Happy Hiller Club members will save up to 25% off your first HVAC, plumbing, and electrical repair. And everyone else gets a 10% discount. That's right. So if you're a Happy Hiller Club member like me, you get 25% off. If you're everybody else who's not, one, you should join the Happy Hiller Club, but you get 10% off. Present your coupon and save by visiting happyhiller.com to download a coupon today. That is Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. My guys, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today.
And what do you hope, Titans fans will maybe see differently in you starting this week that maybe they didn't see?
I think that I'd just love for them to think I look, just more comfortable out there, just like I'm seeing things well. And that's my goal as well, is to go into this week with that confidence, knowing that I have made those improvements and I've been able to see things better and just make good decisions with the football. So I just hope to, just to do that. And for my teammates, especially, just to put that on film for them.
I hope you can do it too, Will Levis. I do. And I said this last year. I keep using this one play against the Texans as the example. When they were playing the JV Texans and Levis rolled out and two defenders were with DeAndre Hopkins, and Levis stared down DeAndre and threw it right to the two defenders, and it got intercepted while Traylon Burks was streaming down the field wide open. Would have been a touchdown if Burks had caught the ball and Levis had thrown it. And everybody says, well, next year, he'll be a veteran quarterback. He'll have the experience. The game will slow down. That'll be easy. I'm like, we hope. We hope that happens. And I'm not going to nitpick Levis there for saying, I hope that's what Titan fans see this year. And not like, no. That needs to be what you expect to show Titans fans on Sunday. But it is the kind of thing that we need to see. Year 2 is the year where, for the most part, you become a dude. It's year 2. It was for Manning. It was for Burrow. It was for Brady. It was for Mahomes. It was for Lamar. Like, if you're going to be more than a Ryan Tannehill, it's going to be year 2. Russell Wilson won a Super Bowl year 2. So that's what we need to see. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Kyle in Shelbyville says, The Pittsburgh Steelers know how good Levis is now. The Pittsburgh Steelers won the game. He's saying, I called Pittsburgh last year and said they would win with Levis. They laughed, and I loved it. They were cool, and Levis about did it. There's a problem, though. And the problem is Levis didn't win the game. See, I'm just going to tell you guys how you're going to feel, even if you think this isn't how you're going to feel. You are going to feel when they lose, if they lose, however, whatever it may be, you're not going to give him the benefit of the doubt this year. That if he doesn't do the things that he says he's excited to show you on Sunday, if he doesn't do those things, you're not going to be mad at Brian Callahan. You're going to be mad at him. Last year, you gave him the benefit of the doubt. And he deserved the benefit of the doubt. He was a rookie quarterback with a terrible offensive line, with no receivers, with a bad coaching staff. Well, this year we feel like they've fixed some of those things. So now, let's see you go do it. And if he doesn't do it, and instead of, well, he almost beat Pittsburgh, you're going to be upset that he didn't beat Pittsburgh. And I think the guy who did quarterback Pittsburgh in Kenny Pickett's a good example of, we're done making excuses for you. Because in Pittsburgh, Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator, he was so bad. They were chanting to fire him at Pittsburgh Penguin games. But at the end of the year, when they went to sign Russell Wilson, they didn't give Kenny the benefit of the doubt and say, well, hey, Kenny had a good first year, and Kenny showed us some things at times, but, we want to do. It's not going. You don't get that in year two. If Bryce Young does not win this year in Carolina, Anthony Richardson is 22 years old. Levis is 25. There's a big difference between those two. Anthony Richardson has played 4 NFL games in his career. 4 games, 22 years old. And if he doesn't win this year, he's a bust. If Bryce Young doesn't win, last year Carolina was the worst team in the league. The owner got blamed. The coach got blamed and fired. The GM got blamed and fired. The receivers got blamed. The line got blamed. They spent $20 million a year on a freaking guard. If they don't win this year, and I still don't think they have a good team, if they don't win this year, they're blaming Bryce Young. Because that's how this league works. I mean, I don't think it's fair, but again, it's how this league works. Skyler says, we want to win, not almost win, Ian.
Channeling his inner Eric Dickerson.
Man, we want to win. We don't want to almost win. They say, if we'd had another quarter, if this hadn't happened, we'd have. What does Eric Dickerson say? He says that's how losers speak. One texter said, maybe Levis just might not be any good consistently and too bullish to take the coaching. Maybe he could damage his own goods. Maybe. And again, that's what we're going to decide this year. I use Tannehill as the example. Ryan Tannehill, in his time as a quarterback in the NFL, had, off the top of my head, like 5 different offensive coaches. Joe Philbin, who's kind of a doofus. Joe Philbin was his head coach in Miami as a rookie. Adam Gase was his second coach in Miami. He got traded here. Arthur Smith was his offensive coach. Then Todd Downing, then Tim Kelly. Of that group, how many of those guys would you say are good coaches? Maybe one, Arthur. I think we all know Kelly, Downing, Philbin, Gase, everywhere he goes. Now, Tannehill had a good coach with Arthur Smith, and he was good. And so Tannehill's an example of a guy who had 2 bad offensive coaches, Philbin and Gase, and they said, he's no good. And if all you did were to take Downing and Kelly when Tannehill said, He's no good. Well, when it comes to Levis, if he doesn't play well with Brian Callahan, and again, Brian Callahan has the resume that says that he's going to be a good offensive coach and really put Levis in the right position and all of that kind of stuff. But at the same time, he might not be a good coach. Adam Gase was an offensive coach. Joe Philbin was an offensive coach. Those guys, now they weren't from the McVay-Shanahan womb, but again, they still. But if he doesn't work this year, we'll blame him too. And maybe it's that he can't get the coach. Now, we'll say, well, Callahan needs his own guy. And then they'll let Brian Callahan go out and go find a quarterback. By the way, my theory on Adam Gase's stupidity is really going to be put to the test this year in Minnesota with Sam Darnold, because I'm a believer in Sam Darnold, and I believe that he's got Kevin O'Connell and he's got Justin Jefferson, and I believe Sam Darnold is going to have a good year this year. And I think the problem with Sam Darnold is he had bozos coaching him with Adam Gase and Matt Rule. We shall see if I'm right. And if Sam Darnold with a real coach looks like a real quarterback. One texter says, the Pittsburgh game was a Thursday night game on the road the week after he shared first-team reps with Malik because of Vrabel. Levis did all any quarterback could do with that kind of preparation. No. In the fourth quarter, first of all, Levis missed a wide-open Tajay Spears for a touchdown before the end of the half. And in the fourth quarter, with the game on the line, Levis missed Kyle Phillips short on a fourth down, throwing a fade at the corner for Treylon Burks. He threw a pass at the beginning of the 2-minute drill that almost got intercepted. DeAndre Hopkins had to go up and knock it away from the DB. He almost threw an interception on the second to last pass of the game, trying to take a shot for the end zone. The Steeler safety was sitting right there. He jumped it hit him in the hands. And at the same time, he then the next time threw the ball into the safety's hands, and it was intercepted and the game was over. That's not doing. He did the best he can do. Well, the best is then not good enough. So I hope he can do better. And I hope that this year he will do better. One texter says, I'm worried Levis's reputation with the rest of the league will not recover if he loses to Caleb Williams and the Bears in his first ever start. How? He's expected to lose to the Bears in the first game of Caleb Williams' career. His reputation, everybody around the league and everybody around the country thinks he is going to the game, going to lose the game. So I wouldn't say too much that'll ruin anything. If they lose, other than people around here that are thinking this team's going to win 11 games this year, for whatever reason that is, those people will be disappointed. And I'll just be upset that my team didn't win. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. So a point I tried to make yesterday, I feel like was proven today. I'll explain what I mean by that. And it is something that should make you feel good, even though the Titans have whiffed on some draft picks over the years. We'll do that next here on Stillman and Company. Be sure to tune in to 94.9 The Fan tonight as the Sounds take on Gwinnett. Pregame at 6:20, first pitch 6:35. And coverage is also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com. Sounds baseball on 94.9 The Fan. Presented by Twin Peaks, Family Leisure, 5 Points Roofing, and Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Stillman and Company. Hey, let's give something away. I'm in a good mood. Be caller 5 right now at 615-737-1025. You win a 4-pack of tickets to see the Sounds take on Gwinnett tomorrow at First Horizon Park. We will be live out at First Horizon Park tomorrow. The TD Power Hour will be a little bit later because the Titans will have an open locker room, but TD will join us at First Horizon Park as well. So be caller 5. Good luck there. So the injury report is out for the Titans. According to the Titans, DeAndre Hopkins and Otis Reese were limited participants, and Jamal Adams did not practice with a hip injury. Now, when could Jamal Adams have gotten hurt? This was from Paul Kaharski, who caught up with Adams in the locker room. Here's what he said about his situation and availability for Sunday.
Obviously, just coming back, it's a 2-year process. I ain't had training camp or whatnot, but just trying to get the body feeling back right, but everything's going good.
How close do you feel to being right?
I'm almost there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm almost there, guys. So here's the thing with Jamal Adams. Earlier this hour, I was talking about how the Titans kind of went out of their way to support Will Levis, and adding guys on defense does help support Will Levis, whether it is Quandre Diggs or Ernest Jones or Tavondre Sweat or Chidobe Awuzie or L'Jarius Sneed, or all of those guys help Will Levis win football games, which would help him become the guy. Just like A.J. Brown helps Jalen Hurts and helped him become the guy. Well, the reason I didn't mention Adams is because I'm not counting Adams, okay? The thing about Jamal Adams, and this is signing Quandre Diggs makes this okay. Because when they sign Quandre Diggs, I'm like, fine, that's good, because now it's going to be Hooker and Diggs at safety. And Adams will play a little bit. But, Jared, they're going to be like the Ravens with the 3 safeties and Kyle Hamilton, and they're going to – guys, anything Jamal Adams does is gravy. Now, if the Titans had gone into the season without Quandre Diggs and they had been saying, no, Jamal Adams is going to be a big part of what we do, then we'd have had some problems. But because they added Ernest Jones and because they added Quandre Diggs, it's okay. But I do not count Jamal Adams for anything on this football team this year other than maybe he can help out a little bit. The guy never practices. He's already hurt. He's been hurt his entire career, and now he's the only guy on the – not even DeAndre missed practice today, and he has a legitimate injury. So enough when it comes to Jamal Adams. Not that people are sitting there talking about how Jamal Adams is going to be a difference maker or anything like that. I'm just saying. For the Bears, Keenan Allen was limited, and Montez Sweat was limited, and then everybody else I've never heard of, unless you guys know who Roshan Johnson is. So Keenan Allen limited with a heel, Montez Sweat limited with a toe. So there was a contract extension today in the NFL. I've talked about this when it comes to signing guys, whether it's Ernest Jones or whether it's Ernest Jones or DeAndre Hopkins or whomever that's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. And I'm like, if you're going to get a deal done, you need to get it done now. Because once the season starts, these players don't want to resign. Once the season starts, these guys are like, nope, I've already started the season and I'm close to free agency, so let me get there. Today, Davis Mills signed a contract extension, but the big one was Patrick Surtain II. Now, Patrick Surtain's dad was a bad boy, very bad, when he played with the Miami Dolphins back in the day, and it makes me feel old when he was coming out for the draft. The fact that he and Asante Samuel Jr. came out in the same draft made me feel very, very old. But yesterday on the program, I talked about how stop complaining about the missed draft choices in 2020 and 2021. Because what you've done in free agency is you have replaced those missed draft choices. Well, Patrick Surtain just signed for $96 million, $76 million of which is guaranteed. Your free agency dollars are just paying for the players that you missed on in the past. And L'Jarius Sneed is a good example of that. Sneed, I would assume, is right up there with Sauce Gardner and Patrick Surtain as far as the best corners in the NFL. Now, you're not paying him as much money as they're paying Surtain, but Surtain is a year younger, and again, hate to say it, the knees. But you're still paying L'Jarius Sneed $19 million a year. You're paying L'Jarius Sneed a 2020 draft choice. You're paying him the money you wished you were paying Caleb Farley. Because let's say John Robinson was right and we were wrong, and Caleb Farley was the best corner in that draft. Again, a draft that included Patrick Surtain and Asante Samuel. Well, then you'd be paying Caleb Farley $96 million today. So you wouldn't have a need to go sign L'Jarius Sneed. Tony Pollard is making the money that you wished you were giving Darrington Evans. So where the hit really comes in is not now. It's not now when you look at the team and you say, it was the 2020 and the 2021 drafts that blew this team apart. No, that's not where you take the hit, because you've got L'Jarius Sneed. Lloyd Cushenberry, 2020 draft choice. Tony Pollard, 2019 draft choice. The hit comes when you miss out on the years of the cheap labor. So right now what you need is you need the 2023 draft class to be a difference maker and the 2022 draft class to be filled with difference makers. With guys like McCreary and Burks and Nicholas Petit-Ferrer, a.k.a. PT. That's what you need. But as far as the missed draft classes, the Isaiah Wilson and Caleb Farley and Christian Fulton, and you've already made up for that. Again, there's no difference between what you're paying L'Jarius Sneed and what they're paying Patrick Surtain. You're paying Sneed what you wished you were paying Farley. So let's just keep that in mind, that, again, you need the guys that are on this team right now. That you need. One texter says, how many full games have you watched Sam Darnold play? Be honest, highlights don't count. He's not that good. I promise you, he's definitely not as good as Kirk Cousins, texter says. So I watched NFL Plus. I got NFL Plus. The app sucks. I literally have to connect the iPad to an HDMI in order to be able to watch it on the TV, because if I use it on the Fire Stick, it never works. But what's great about NFL Plus is they have this thing called condensed games. So if you can ever get the app to actually work, the condensed games are great. They take a full 2-hour football game and it's like 38 minutes. Instead of second down, ball's incomplete, we're getting ready for third down. But first, it's an all-new Jared on CBS, America's #1 most watched network. On Thursday in all-new Jared, we find out if Jared is actually a man. It's an all-new Jared on America's CBS most watched network. Third down and 6. They cut all that baloney out. And it's just play. And I watch those Carolina Panther games. Now, Gentry Estes is the one that kind of turned me on to it and said, you got to watch the Carolina Panthers in these condensed games. And so I did. And I watched Darnold and DJ Moore. Now, DJ Moore, let me say this, he scares the crap out of me on Sunday. But I watched Darnold and DJ Moore carry the Carolina Panthers back into contention. And Steve Wilkes, don't forget about him. Steve Wilkes deserves his due there too. And so I saw that, and I thought Darnold absolutely deserved the opportunity to either be the starting quarterback of a team that needed a bridge guy last year, like Baker Mayfield in Tampa, whom he was much better than on the same Carolina Panther team, or the opportunity to back up a team that had a starter, but And for me, that was Desmond Ridder. I'm like, go sign Sam Darnold to be the backup, and then if Ridder sucks, you've got your insurance policy. Nope. They went with Taylor Heineke, a backup's backup, like Mason Rudolph. And so he was behind Brock Purdy last year. He didn't play. I think Sam Darnold's good. Very good. And we shall see. Somebody's going to be right this year. We shall see. 615-737-1025. That's our phone number, 615-737-1025. The owner of the Bears has come out and said something that I can promise you these fans in Chicago do not want to hear. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company right here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. So the entire city of Chicago is expecting the Titans to go in and get their hats handed to them by the Chicago Bears. In fact, I think if I were to go man on the street in Chicago, and I'm not there, but if I were to go there and I were to say, okay, let's sit down. Let's talk about this. What do you think is more likely? The Chicago Bears go to the Super Bowl this year, or the Chicago Bears miss the playoffs? I think there's a chance those fans there would say, oh, it's more likely they go to the Super Bowl, because it's not very likely that they're going to make it to the Super Bowl, but they're definitely not missing the playoffs. Like the way a Georgia fan would talk about a 12-team college football playoff, that's how Chicago Bear fans feel about the 14-team NFL playoffs. Which is probably why the owner had to come out and tell the Chicago Sun-Times, George McCaskey, had to come out and beg for patience when it came to the Chicago fans and Caleb Williams. The owner saying, quote, typically the number one pick in the draft comes into a situation where it's going to take a while for things to come together, McCaskey said on Thursday. Caleb's got a lot of support, a solid defense, good receivers, good offensive line, a good running game, tight ends. But I hope people will be patient. There are going to be growing pains. He's going to make mistakes. That's part of the learning process for any young quarterback. Well, let me say this. No duh. Peyton Manning was 3-13. And he had Marshall Faulk at running back and Marvin Harrison at wide receiver as a rookie quarterback in the NFL. There will be growing pains for Caleb Williams no matter what. But the reason that I find that fascinating, that the owner came out and said, fans, be patient, is because I want to know the why. Why did the owner come out and say that about Caleb Williams? Why is the owner coming out ahead of the first game of the season after they had the number one pick, when the tickets are through the roof, when they're trying to get a new stadium built, when they're on Hard Knocks, when all this is going on? Why is the owner coming in and trying to turn the temperature down on the Caleb Williams hype? And for me, it's one of two reasons. Number one is because the hype is out of control. Again, let's go to Chicago and let's see what they're saying when it comes to this game Sunday and the Bears season. They added Keenan Allen. They added Rome Odunze. They added Kevin Byard. They re-signed Montez Sweat to a big contract. Those fans in Chicago think that this is going to be a good team. I do not buy it, by the way. Let me say this. I think Chicago is at best third in that division. And then you know how I feel about Sam Darnold, so I think there's a chance they might be fourth. But can you imagine being an owner? And owners want fans to be excited about teams, especially owners that are looking for new stadiums. And they're looking for a new stadium in Chicago. I mean, again, I think some of the takes that have happened around here, just based on some of the moves the Titans made in the offseason and the Will Levis stuff, and I think even that's a little out of control. But I think some of it has to do with PSLs and trying to get everybody excited so that they'll buy tickets and to believe in something that nobody else around the country believes in. The Bears, because Caleb is not a second-round draft choice who puts mayonnaise in coffee, Caleb, people around the country think might be really good. So the first thing is, I think the owner's looking at this saying, guys, I do not want a 2019 Cleveland Browns around here, which is the 2019 Browns weren't that bad of a team, but the hype that surrounded them going into the year was so ridiculous that anything short of winning 13 games was going to be a problem. And so when they got beat by the Titans in week one, then it started to become this all finger pointing, and Odell's mad at Baker and his dad's coming out and Owens and everything. By the way, when's the last time Odell Beckham did anything that mattered in the NFL? Outside of like 3 catches in the first half of the Super Bowl game a couple years ago. When's the last time Odell did anything? Nothing. That's why he's a TV player. So the owner is trying to tell the fans, guys, chill out. The second reason why I think the owner might be the one coming out and doing this is because when a GM or a coach says something, fans almost always feel like the GM and the coach is talking from their position, i.e., I'm the coach, fans. I believe in our team on Sunday, and I believe we're going to win, and I believe in this group, and I told the team in the locker room that when we come together, can do anything, but be careful getting excited about the young quarterback. And then fans are going to think, oh, there's coach trying to protect his job. I almost wonder if the owner is saying that as a way to help try to protect the coach. Because the Bears are in a situation, the Titans, because Vrabel just got fired, the Titans are in a situation where if Levis isn't good this year, it's Levis's fault. If Caleb Williams isn't any good this year, it's the coach's fault. But again, I think it's fascinating that on one side of this, the owner is coming out and saying, Caleb's got a lot of support. We have a solid defense. We have good running backs, good receivers, good offensive lines, good tight ends. But be patient. Be patient. And I wonder how much of that is the internal talk that, again, that level of optimism in Chicago is just, it's too high. And not only is it too high in Chicago, where the local radio host is going on national television and saying, I believed in Mitch Trubisky. And I believed in Justin Fields. But I'm telling you, I believe in Caleb Williams. I wonder how much of that is just so out of control there that they know, like, this is not going to be pretty if this doesn't work. And then on top of it, not only is it not going to be pretty if it doesn't work right away, but also it's not like they're playing Tom Brady week 1. They're playing the Titans. Again, I'm trying not to be rude here because I know you guys love the Titans and you guys think the Titans are good and you guys think the Titans are going to win on Sunday. But most people don't think the Titans are very good. And regardless of whether or not that's true, again, most people didn't think that the Titans were very good going into that 2019 season. They went to Cleveland. The show was all about Baker and Odell and Jarvis Landry and whatever. And the Titans went in there and kicked that ass. And nobody gave the Titans any credit. The Titans ended up in the AFC title game that year. But nobody is going to give the Titans any credit if they go in there and win. Those fans are going to be mashing the panic button saying, oh, no, oh, God, we thought we were going to be good. We lost the Titans. So I wonder if the owner is also coming out in that regard saying, hey, everybody be patient. It's not going to happen overnight. And then if they lose to the Titans, it's like, Michael texts into the text line. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com says, I have family in Chicago and they're all expecting a good game on Sunday. Define a good game. Does a good game on Sunday mean a good game for us, where my family in Chicago is expecting the Bears to go in there and kick that ass? Or is a good game like, hey, they're expecting it down to the wire and they're expecting a close game and it could go either way and who knows?
If they said that, they're just being nice because of they're your family.
Yeah, ask if they think the Titans can win. That's the question I would have. Not, what do you think on Sunday? First of all, 90% of the games in the NFL are good games. The Titans were awful last year. I mean, awful. And I think they lost 7 of their 11 games by 1 score. Like, they went on the road to Pittsburgh. That was an awful game. And it went right down to the wire. Well, I guess that counts as a good game because, hey, it's close at the end. But ask them if they think the Titans can win. Because that's the real question. Because I don't think those people there think that the Titans can win. I think Titans fans think there's a chance the Bears can win this game. I don't think if I come on the air on Friday, and again, I do not know what I am going to pick. Like, I don't know. Am I going to pick that the Titans win? Am I going to pick the Titans are going to? I don't know. I do not know. Have not decided yet. But if the Titans lose on Sunday, I don't think Titan fans, even the ones that are so excited for the season and think Brian Callahan's great and Levis is the man and all, I don't think they're going to be shocked. I think if the Titans lose at Chicago, if the Titans go win at Chicago, I think you will see Chicago fans that lose their minds. That, I mean, really, really struggle with the idea of that game being lost. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. So I have not heard what Dave Wanstead had to say on Robbie and Retro. We had a texter that said that Dave Wanstead was losing his pants over Caleb Williams and the Bears, the old coach. So, Ian,
got a couple of them here for you.
Let's do it next. Let's see if it's as bad as he's making it out to be. We'll do that next. And your phone, 615-737-1025. Let's talk FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel Sportsbook is my official sportsbook app, and it is the #1 sportsbook app, period. And they have something a little different for you. Because right now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 to get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game, period. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/JGM to download America's #1 sportsbook and my official sportsbook app. That's FanDuel.com/JGM. 21 and over and present in Tennessee. Full price of NFL Sunday Ticket will be automatically charged seasonally after free trial. No refunds, terms, restrictions, and embargoes apply. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
I couldn't tell you the last time I was this excited to watch the Chicago Bears play and the Washington Commanders. And that's the great gift the NFL gives us, is that we watch these great college players for 3 and 4 and 5 years. And all of a sudden I have an emotional investment. I can't wait to watch Jaden and Caleb. Give me one thing that you'll see with a young quarterback. You may see it with Drake May. The one thing that Tom Brady will see that I can't, that you'll be like, okay, he's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. What does a young quarterback? Is it the feet? Is it the head movement? What do you see that I can't that you would know it's going to work?
Well, I think there's lots of ways you can look at a quarterback play, and I think it's very easily to evaluate the physical aspect of the game, how well he throws the ball, how fast his feet are when he drops back in the pocket. Can he escape the pocket and make some plays on the run? For me, I think the sustainable part about quarterbacking is really what's up here, is what's in the brain. Are you snapping the ball and running good plays consistently against the defenses that you're out there watching as you're reading the defenses? So much of it to me is the coach giving the quarterback, because he's going to see it every day in practice, the coach and the players, are they giving the quarterback the freedom to make the plays and the decisions that he needs to make to get the team to win? Because a lot of these guys can throw the ball. A lot of them can move in the pocket. Now, watching Caleb do it, he's exceptional at it.
Right.
But to me, it's a deeper level than that.
That was Tom Brady and Colin Cowherd. Colin's like, I can't wait to watch the Bears and Caleb Williams. And again, it's a little too much. And I am I am laughing in just, I'm dying inside about the idea of the fact that the people of Chicago, it seems like, do not have the capacity to think maybe Caleb might be a bust, which that's just a statistical thing. I mean, Jameis Winston did as much as you could do in college. He lost one time, won the Heisman, won the national title, stole crab legs, and lost one game and his backup. Like, I mean, it's just, but it's nope, Caleb's the guy and our team's great. And here we go. So Dave Wanstead used to coach the Bears. He also coached the Dolphins for a little bit. And Dave Wanstead was on Robbie and Rexroad. This was unbeknownst to me. Maybe I didn't wake up in time or something. I don't know. But this was unbeknownst to me. And somebody texted earlier today. And they said, oh, my God, did you hear Dave Wanstead on Robbie and Rexroad? And did you hear Dave Wanstead and how he was just pants off over the Bears? And Ian, you said you heard the Wanstead interview.
I did live, yeah.
So did it shock you how positive it was Bears-wise, or did you? What was your initial reaction when you listened to it?
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I expected him to be kind of homerish on the Bears, to be honest with you.
See, I don't expect people to be homers, and I don't like when people are homers, but I haven't heard this.
Well, if you used to work for the team,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Here was Dave Wanstead, the old coach, talking about Caleb Williams.
I've been around, several rookie quarterbacks, and what I would say with Caleb, we all saw the ability, the talent level. The thing that has really caught my attention more than anything is this kid is probably football mentally mature, years ahead of where most rookies would be. I mean, this guy, after a preseason game, he completes a couple passes, whatever, and he's talking to the media, and he understands exactly why he threw it to receiver X and not receiver Y because of what the defense was doing. He just makes comments, and you just hear his football intellect that tells you, God, is this guy a rookie? And then you kind of combine that with the athletic ability, and he's had a great camp. He's had a great off season and preseason. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, the one thing I will say, and I was at Dallas really from the beginning when Troy Aikman was a rookie, and the one thing that I'll be curious to see on Sunday when they play the Titans is the speed of the game is the one thing that is different than OTAs, than preseason. When you start playing these games for real, everything happens a lot faster. The rush is faster. The coverage is tighter. The DBs are quicker. And that's what I want to see. If he can handle the speed of the game, this guy's really, really going to be everything that people think.
Okay. I mean, it was a little homerish. He kind of saved himself there with the asterisk at the end of it with the, hey, just so you know, like, this isn't like OTAs. This isn't like the preseason. This gets really fast. And again, I didn't watch Hard Knocks, even though I said I was going to. I didn't. And I haven't listened to every Caleb Williams press conference. And Wannstedt would have more access and everything else than I would. But the idea that Caleb Williams is acting like a seventh-year player, okay. I struggle with that. Like, did Manning act like that right away? But Manning didn't carry a purse, and Manning didn't paint his fingernails black, and Manning talked to the media when he lost, and I have different feelings about Manning than I do Williams. Then there was so I didn't, on the 1 out of 10, with 10 being North Korea, I would say that was a 6 out of 10 from Wannstedt. So now this was Dave Wannstedt on Robbie and Rex Road talking about the feeling they have in Chicago.
I think the feeling is excitement for Caleb, obviously, because we've seen enough and he says the right things. He's fantastic on the TV and radio. But I think deep down, Bears fans, they don't have a problem winning a game 10-6. And by saying that, I mean, this is a city that they appreciate defense. And I think there is a real good feel of how good our defense was as the season went on last year and how good they could be to give our offense opportunities. So I think deep down there's excitement for Caleb, but I think there's, confidence in our defense.
So I don't want to be a hater here, but I think he's projecting his own feelings onto the Bear fans. Now, I don't know the Bear fans, and I do know that in 1985, they had a great defense and they won with that, and that's great. But at the same time, I do kind of struggle a little bit with this idea that they were just, we don't care. We're fine winning 10-7, and we're going to win with defense, and I think I struggle with that idea a little bit because the people around here don't like winning with defense. And unlike the Bears, we don't win a lot in Nashville, Tennessee. In Chicago, even though right now the Blackhawks suck, and right now the Bulls suck, and right now the White Sox suck, and right now the Cubs are, there's pretty much always one good team in Chicago. The Bulls in the 90s, the White Sox in the early 2000s, the Cubs in the 2010s, the Blackhawks in the late 2000s and the early 2010s. So there's always usually at least one good team in Chicago because they got so many teams. So when I hear Wannstedt say, I think we'll be okay if we win games 10-7, I'm like, I think because I think Wannstedt was a defensive coach. I think you, a defensive coach, you're like, hey, whatever it takes, win the game 10-7, we're okay with that, Coach Billy Ray. I don't think that's how those fans are going to feel. And I only say that because, once again, here, I kind of felt like the Titan fans were not okay winning games 10-7. Because I remember Mike Mularkey that second year when they barely beat the Texans, who weren't very good, and they were 8-4, and it was like,
That kind of felt like an old school Bears feeling there from Wannstedt.
Yeah.
About the fans. Like
these fans in Chicago, they were, buddy, that was during the Ronald Reagan administration.
That is when you were coaching. That's not what it is now.
No. When you pick a quarterback number one and you've got Colin Cowherd on TV saying, I can't wait to watch the Bears, Tom Brady. It's about scoring 35 points a game. It's about being what the Texans were last year. That's what they want. That's all they want. By the way, I did wonder this. because everyone tells me about how good the Bears defense is going to be. And Wannstedt saying, in our defense, we really got it. They were 12th last year in defense. And 12th isn't bad, but it's not like they were first. By the way, do you know who had the second-ranked defense in the NFL last year?
Who would you rank by, points or yards when you do this?
Well, when I say that they had the 12th-ranked defense, I'm talking about total defense, which is yards.
Okay.
They were 20th in points, but how much of that's Justin Fields' fault?
Sure, I just
turning
get
the ball over.
I just get confused when the rankings when it's yards versus points.
Well, in this case, they were second in yards, second in points.
Okay.
Do you know who the second-ranked defense was last year?
No, I don't.
The Chiefs.
I guess that makes sense.
The Chiefs. I was a little surprised by that yesterday.
They keep asking all the Chief interviews I've been seeing lately. All they do is ask the secondary about the loss of L'Jarius Sneed and how they're going to make up for that.
And what do they keep saying?
They pretty much keep saying, it's definitely a loss, but we got guys here that hopefully that are going to step up.
I give Dave Wannstedt a 6 out of 10 overall, with, again, 10 being North Korea. I give Dave Wannstedt a 6 out of 10 for his homerism. Not that bad. Not as bad as that texter made it sound. 615-737-1025. A lot of you want to weigh in on this. 615-737-1025. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 1025-1063 The Game. Let me tell you about Twice Daily. I love Twice Daily. In fact, here's how much I love Twice Daily. This Monday, we went to the lake. You got to celebrate the end of the summer by going on the lake on Labor Day. So we went on the lake. And as you get to the lake, there's a Twice Daily right there, because there's a Twice Daily everywhere. And so we stopped at Twice Daily. And the reason we stopped at Twice Daily was because, the crew, they wanted to pick up a case of seltzer or something like that. So there were like 6 different convenience stores to pick up. I said, we got to go to Twice Daily. And I was telling them about the fact that morning, I had gone to Twice Daily and I had a chicken and egg English muffin, and it was freaking delicious. And I kept talking about it. And I said, okay, let's go to Twice Daily. So we went to Twice Daily and I showed them the made-to-order kiosk and how you do all of that. And one of them got an Italian sub. The other one got a Nashville hot chicken wrap. And I was like, all right, you guys are going to love this stuff. You guys try it. We're out there on the boat. They're eating the sandwiches and they're like, oh my God, these are so good. I'm like, I'm telling you, this isn't like, oh, that's from a convenience store. No, this is good stuff. This is like a true wrap, a true sandwich, a true breakfast, this morning, you go look at my Instagram story. I was at White Bison because it was right by the doctor's office. I had a doctor's appointment this morning. White Bison was right there. I can't see a Twice Daily or a White Bison without wanting to go in there and pull up my app and get my rewards and everything. And at Twice Daily, they've got a burger built for you. Try their new classic jalapeno ranch or Titans burger. They're made to order so you can fix them the way you like them with your choice of cheese, veggies, and other tasty toppings. And if you're looking for a burger deal, Twice Daily does that too. Get the $6 meal deal, including any made-to-order burger, potato wedges, and your choice of a 20-ounce Coke or Pepsi. There's no better way to get more meal for your money. Twice Daily. What are you craving?
the eyeball is going to be on Caleb Williams, but I look at the skill positions on offense with Swift at running back, but then of course with DJ Moore, you add Keenan Allen and you draft Rome Odunze. What do you make of the skill position around Caleb Williams and the group that they've been able to assemble there this offseason?
Yeah, crazy good. I mean, it's probably as good a skill group as anybody has in the NFL, to be honest with you. As far as receivers, Cole Kmet's a excellent do-everything tight end. Then you said Swift at running back. So their receivers, tight ends, and running back situation is as good as anybody's got. I won't say it's the best, but it's as good as any group I think around. And the key is going to be that they don't get caught up in this, in my opinion. That Caleb Williams, when he has a chance to make a play, he makes a play. But they don't put him in a position where the game is riding on him. He's got to play great for them to win. I think they're a good enough team to win games without that happening for every play. He's going to have to make plays, maybe before the half, maybe at the end of the game, maybe there's a turnover. They got good field position. Make a play, put the ball in the end zone, but not every play. They got a good enough team, supporting cast that should take some pressure off of him.
Dave Wannstedt isn't help cooling the temperature in Chicago for all the people. I mean, if they don't win the game 44-14, they're going to say, what the hell's the matter with us? To your phones, as promised, phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Dylan says, even if the Titans win, which I don't think they will, it will all be that it was the Bears and Caleb. Not that the Titans might not be as bad as we think, because that's how it always goes. Guys, I'm going to prepare you for something right now. Anything short of Caleb Williams going bananas on Sunday, which you don't want, anything short of that means that this game will be completely overlooked across the country. I don't think this game, in fact, I think I have the 506 thing pulled up. I don't think this game is supposed to draw a huge television audience. And so what happens is, with pretty much most of the league, is unless you're that big game, most of the people across the country will watch Dallas and Cleveland, and then we'll watch a Sunday nighter, we'll watch the Monday nighter, we'll watch the Thursday nighter, and then people will watch their local games. I'm looking at the Fox early window. Most of the country gets Pittsburgh and Atlanta with Joe Davis and Greg Olson. The middle of the country, so here are the big markets that get the game. Green Bay gets the game, Chicago gets the game, Indianapolis gets the game, Detroit gets the game, and Nashville gets the game. So that's it. I mean, I would say that's a very small part of the country gets the Titans and the Bears. An even smaller part of the country, Minneapolis, although that's a big market, and New York, which is obviously the biggest market in the country, they get Minnesota and the Giants, and then nobody gets Carolina and New Orleans. So not a lot of people are going to watch this game. So if the Bears win and Caleb doesn't do much, so let's say that Bears defense is really good. Let's say Dave Wannstedt's right, and the Bears win 10-7. Then the talk will just be, and the Bears win in week 1. Okay, moving on. If the Titans go to Chicago and they win, Dylan is right. If there's any talk, which I don't think there will be a lot, but if there's any talk, it will be about what is wrong with Caleb? What is wrong with the Bears? The only way this game gets any real semblance of a national audience, as far as not the game itself, but kind of like the after, the discussion of the game and everything, the only way any of that happens is if Caleb goes out there, throws for 350 and 3 touchdowns. And then it's like, Caleb Williams has arrived. And that's the only way it gets talked about. By the way, I heard that Marcus Spears was on TV, and Marcus Spears said he thinks Caleb throws for 303 touchdowns, and people are mad about that. I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen or not. I don't think it is. But if it does, after all the money you paid L'Jarius Sneed and Chidobe Awuzie, you got problems. Like, if that happens, you got problems. Just know that. One texter says, I do not get the fanfare for Caleb Williams. Yes, he won the Heisman and had a decent season 2 years ago, but last year USC was pathetic. They were the 6th best team in a terrible Pac-12 conference, and he didn't exactly will his team to any extravagant victories like a generational number 1 talent should. So Peyton Manning couldn't beat Florida. Andrew Luck, I think, kind of disappointed a little bit that senior year. Bryce Young didn't. I think Bryce Young got to the national championship game his last year, if I'm not mistaken. No, they lost twice because they lost to UT and they lost to LSU. Bryce Young didn't make it to the playoff his last year. I'm not going to take Caleb's results and say that, hey, it's proof that Caleb's not that good or not going to be that good in the pros. Because Tom Brady was not Jameis Winston in college, as crazy as that is to say. Mariota, took Oregon to the national title game and he won the Heisman, and even Marcus, didn't make it as a starting quarterback. But here's what I will say about Caleb. I kind of feel like Caleb isn't any better than Jameis Winston was coming out. I don't feel like Caleb was any better than Baker Mayfield coming out. What I think makes everybody love Caleb Williams so much is the fact that his game is the closest that we've seen anybody else when it comes to Mahomes. That running around and waiting for guys to come open and on the run, delivering the ball and putting it right in somebody's hands and then them running with it, that's the closest they have to Mahomes. And so people are like, ha, 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 Caleb Williams. But I will agree, I was disappointed with the season Caleb Williams had last year. One texter says, Williams is a rookie. I don't know why everyone thinks he's going to light it up. He is going to make mistakes. Again, that's why the Bears owner had to come out and he basically had to say straight up, guys, it's going to take time with Caleb. You have to be patient because it is going to take time. It will be okay, but it's going to take time. One texter says the national media will freak out if Caleb Williams looks slightly off. Like, where in the pantheon does Caleb Williams sit? If Andrew Luck is the best prospect to ever come out for the NFL draft this century, I mean, you talk to people that have done this, and they say that the best draft prospect they've ever seen, and it's almost pretty much always Elway. That Elway is kind of the guy who everybody knew, even though Elway's last year at Stanford, they didn't win a lot of games, it was Elway. Like, he was the guy that you get a draft prospect like John Elway, and you can, and since then we've had about a gazillion quarterbacks taken number one, but for me, it's Elway, it's Peyton, it's Luck, and I would put Trevor Lawrence in that group, even though I never loved Trevor Lawrence that much, and I certainly think Trevor Lawrence in the pros has not been that good, but I do think that coming out, people looked at him that same way with the Trevor Lawrence. I do think there's something to that. The reason I say this is because, is Williams in that same class as Andrew Luck? I remember when Jameis was coming out. I thought Jameis was awesome in college. I know it's easy now to look at Jameis Winston as a joke between all of the off-the-field shenanigans and the funny press conferences and the weirdly awkward pump-up speeches and everything else with Jameis. Like, he's kind of become a caricature. But, I mean, I remember the old Jameis that was stealing crab legs. And I miss that, man, because that guy was a stud at Florida State. And I remember the first week I was working here, the same day that the right tackle story was told to me, we had Herm Edwards on the show. At the time, Herm was working for ESPN. And we had Herm Edwards on the show. And I said to Herm that I thought that Jameis Winston has much talent coming out as Andrew Luck. And I had said that multiple times and hadn't had a lot of pushback. And Herm was like, did you just say that on the radio? He said to Floyd, he goes, Coach, help him out. And clearly Jameis Winston didn't have Andrew Luck's talent. But does Caleb Williams have more talent than Jameis Winston did coming out? Like, was he a better player in college than Jameis Winston? I can't say that. Jameis Winston was a great college player. And I was surprised that Jameis was as mediocre as he was in the NFL, given how good he was in college. But it sounds like when it comes to Caleb Williams, they do put him in the John Elway, Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, and Trevor Lawrence class. And I don't see it. I don't think he's Zach Wilson, but I don't see it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Things are starting to get a little hairy with some wide receivers in Cincinnati. We'll get to that next. Stillman and company here on the program. Oh. And there's one thing that I have got to get to. It happened today. It was a minor transaction, but I have got to get to it. We'll do it next. Stillman and company, 1025-1063 The Game.
because you think he's as dumb as I do on this. So go ahead.
Well,
I'm not
Robbie,
arguing
you think
anymore.
Mason Rudolph's a top 3 backup quarterback?
I do not
in
think
the
he's
NFL?
top 3 backup quarterback.
Listen to him change.
And look, we talked about this yesterday. When you start going through the list, is he top 10? I don't know. But I will say the quarterback win stat that you brought up yesterday for the backup quarterback, not a great one, buddy. Not your best
Okay,
one.
what about the money?
What about the money?
Yeah, are you not
That one-
valued by the league by what you're being paid?
That one is a little bit more of a better argument than the QB win stat.
What about the Pro Football Focus ones where we couldn't find Mason Rudolph?
Yeah.
What
So
about
by what metric,
yeah.
by what objective metric
It's
are
a
we
s-
supposed
it's
to
a
go by
subjective argument.
other than Joe just say, I think he's top 3. Actually, I think he's top 4. Actually, I think he's top 10. What metric are we supposed to go by to prove that this guy's any good? We're
Well, it's
just gonna look
definitely
at
not
3
quarterback
starts.
wins when you've got
So
some
we're just gonna look-
former starting quarterbacks in the league who either
Yeah,
haven't been good in
Because
4
this
years.
guy has always sucked. Those guys at one point might have been good.
Well, at one point, it's great. I'm not interested in it at one point. What about right now?
Okay,
You
I'll still
said
take
Case
Joe
Keenum
Flacco,
the
who
other day.
at one point
Case Keenum is what you said.
If-
Who is the third string
Yeah.
for the Texans and who is not going to play this year? You said Case Keenum.
Let me
the other
see.
day.
Was there a game last year where? So let me see. Was there a game where Case Keenum started at quarterback last year for the Texans and won? And the answer is yes. It was against the Titans, who were put out there at quarterback, the guy who is ahead of Mason Rudolph. So this all goes back to last week when Joe Rexrode argued that Mason Rudolph was the 3rd best quarterback in the NFL, or excuse me, 3rd best backup quarterback, then dropped it to 4th, then made it top 10. And I kept asking throughout the entire week, by what metric is Mason Rudolph a top 10 backup quarterback? He's not top 10 in wins. He's 16th. He's not top 10 in salary. He's 16th at $2.87 million a year for 1 year. He's not in the Pro Football Focus numbers. He's not. So what is the metric that tells us that Mason Rudolph's any good? And I say all of this because, again, they can't answer the question. They just say, well, we just don't think he's as good as Case Keenum, or we think he's better than Case Keenum. Even though Case Keenum actually won a game last year, has been in an NFC title game, has been a starting quarterback before, etc. Makes more money than Mason Rudolph. So today, the Houston Texans extended Davis Mills. Did you see this, Ian?
I don't think I did, no.
Davis Mills, who was a 2021 draft choice, thus, if you're not a starter, would be coming up on his last year of his rookie contract this year, if you weren't a 5th-year guy. Davis Mills signed a 1-year, $5 million extension, which means that next year, Davis Mills will be the backup for $5 million. Now, I don't know if Davis Mills is any good or anything else like that. I don't know. But again, the Houston Texans are willing to say, we want to sign you right now to be our backup next year to CJ Stroud, because we know they're not signing him to be the starter. And we want to pay you almost double the amount of money that Mason Rudolph's getting. So is Davis Mills a better backup quarterback than Mason Rudolph? Because again, he's getting double the money. And Joe should be the one that should really take that money argument to heart, because unlike me, he believes in the salary cap. So if the salary cap is real and they're paying their quarterback north of $40 million, not a season, but $40 million total, and you're paying your young quarterback $9 million over 4 years, shouldn't you, if you've got the better backup quarterback, shouldn't you be paying your backup quarterback because he's a top 10 backup quarterback? He's a top 4 backup quarterback. He's a top 3 backup quarterback. Shouldn't you be paying your backup quarterback more than the Texans are paying their 2nd or 3rd string quarterback? Because again, the Texans are paying Mills $3 million this year, and they're paying Keenum $3 million this year. So they're paying both of those guys more than you're paying your top 3 backup quarterback in the NFL. Somebody help me out with that. Apparently, Gunner says in the text line, Joe said top 13 this morning for Mason Rudolph. There's no way he said that.
I didn't hear that this morning. I must have missed that.
Is he moving the goalpost here? We'll talk to Joe in 8 minutes. The other thing I thought about when I saw the Davis Mills extension is if the Titans were going to put their money where their mouth is, Because the Titans are telling everybody that they think Dylan Radins is good. That no, we think that Radins has won the right guard job, even though the guy he was competing with quit. And we're very comfortable with Radins and the way he's played. And even Callahan said something today. It was a full endorsement. Then why don't you sign Radins to a similar extension? He's under contract this year. He's a free agent at the end of the year. 1 year, $5 million for Radins. I mean, $5 million for a starting right guard is not crazy. $25 million is. 5 for a guard is not. Or do the Titans want to let it play out with Radins this year, see if he's any good, and then invest in him? Because if you don't sign Dylan Radins before week 1, Dylan Radins is going to free agency at the end of the year, which if he sucks, that's not something that we'd be worried about. But if he's good, how depressing would that be? 3 years of really not much out of Radins. All of a sudden, Bill Callahan gets him to be a starter, and now you just let him walk? So if the Texans can sign Davis Mills to an extension, you can sign Radins, who actually starts to an extension, if you think he's that good. And I don't know if he's that good or not. I would bet no. But again, you're the ones that are telling me that he is good, and you're the ones that have the guru coaching him in Bill Callahan. Robbie Stanley confirms to the program Joe Rexrode did not say that he was a top 13 backup quarterback. I don't want to sound like a hater. Part of me says I'm a little bit sad that's not true. Coy in Clarksville says over the cap has the 49ers with $65 million in cap space. Coy says, Jared, I'm starting to agree with you that the salary cap is in fact fake. How could the 49ers have $65 million in cap space when they just gave Brandon Ayuk a huge contract and they're giving Trent Williams a huge contract?
I saw
they're paying Debo,
I saw
they're paying Kittle, and they're paying Bosa, and they're paying Warner, and they're paying everybody.
Well, they restructured Debo's deal. I saw that.
Oh, well, you know. Kicking the can down the road. It'll catch up to them one day. Yeah, let's see if they don't sign Brock Purdy next year. Oh, darn. We wanted to keep Brock Purdy, but we can't because we had to give Brandon Ayuk this crazy contract. Or the salary cap is in fact fake. And the only reason that teams don't spend money is because they don't want to. And that is, again, a different argument. 615-737-1025. Speaking of Joe and his love for Mason Rudolph, Joe will join us next for Jared versus Joe. Right here, Stillman and Company, 1025, 106 through the game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. It may be week 1, but it is 5 o'clock on a Wednesday, which means it's Jared versus Joe time. Caroline is here. Hello, Caroline.
Hello, how we doing?
I'm doing much better than your LSU Tigers are doing after that performance.
Oh, that's such a good one, Jared. Oh,
on Sunday.
That's so
By
fun.
the way,
Oh, good one.
As much as I hate these body bag games against Eastern Lafayette State Tech, LSU might want to try that.
Oh, that's a really good thought, Jared. That's actually the first time that I thought about that over the last 5 years.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Thank you for your originality.
Brian Kelly's playing these opening games. I hate it because if I say this, then they go away and then we get stuck with Boston
It's not
College
Brian
on
Kelly's
TV.
fault. He didn't schedule the games.
Yeah, but the coach can always get out of it and do whatever he wants. Joe's with us. He watched every single throw that Nico Iamaleava made in a meaningless game against Chattanooga on Saturday. Joseph Robinette Rexroad Jr. is with us. Joe, how are you?
Great. How's it going?
Good. By the way, is it just me or did you write a story about Georgia Clemson on Saturday for The Athletic?
Yeah, I did some stuff on Georgia Clemson and Notre Dame, Texas A&M.
Did you go to those games?
I did not go to those games, no.
Did you talk to Paul Kaharski about writing for the New York Times stories about those games without actually having been at those games?
Yeah, I don't think those would be considered stories, but we just, there were live blogs and we had some takeaways. So, I mean, I welcome your and Paul Kaharski's feedback. I value it highly, actually, but yeah, just some quick takeaways and stuff like that.
Paul says you're not even allowed to tweet about the game if you're not there. That's
the only takeaway is that Clemson stinks.
He's got a lot of rules.
And for the 12th year in a row since Johnny Football's left, A&M's quarterback blows. All right, with that, it's time for Jared versus Joe.
Jared Stillman versus Joe Rexroad. Now on Stillman and Company.
On ESPN
102.5 The Game.
Jared versus Joe is presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Caroline, go.
All right, say Joe goes first on this one. Titans play the Bears week 1. Are the Bears better than the Titans? And if so, by how much?
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure. You said, are the Bears better than the Titans?
Yes.
Gosh, it's a great question. Man, it's so hard to answer that because I think that at some point this season, I think I would say yes, because they do have a pretty good team. I mean, they have a pretty solid defense. They got some playmakers on defense. They have fantastic receiving core, decent offensive line, and then I don't know that I am as in love with Caleb Williams as you two are, but I think he's going to be good, and I think that this year he could have maybe a Stroud-like rookie year or something in that neighborhood. But right now at this moment, I don't know, just because I think I said this on our show. I think if I'm the Titans, this is exactly when I'm picking to play the Bears. When the entire city is gaga over this debut and everyone thinks they're just going to roll over the Titans. And meanwhile, you would hope that there's some level of rookie not ready for everything that's about to come his way in a first real game in the NFL. So all of which is to say, I will say right at this moment, no.
Do you think that Jared and I are gaga over Caleb Williams because we would take Caleb Williams over Mason Rudolph?
Well, he wasn't the only guy you said you'd take him over, right? Levis, who else? You threw out a few guys.
I don't think that means I'm gaga over Caleb Williams.
I don't think it's crazy to say that either. Maybe Jared deserves the gaga. And maybe you're not quite gaga.
Yeah,
I think Jared
put this on Jared.
Okay. I mean, just again, remove the purse and he's got goo goo.
I mean, I just said in the last hour that I didn't know, like Caleb Williams, when did he become? I was actually talking about comparing him to Jameis Winston because I felt like Jameis Winston coming out had accomplished more in his career than Caleb Williams had. And yet I feel like everybody makes Caleb Williams out to be this Andrew Luck generation, like the Andrew Luck, Elway Manning, Trevor Lawrence group. And I don't think Caleb Williams is that good. Again, I think he's a notch below Jameis Winston. And obviously we know the end of the story with Jameis. We don't know the end of the story with Caleb. But I think everyone's just acting like Caleb's going to be a slam dunk no matter what. I don't know where the hell that comes from. I didn't even think Caleb was a slam dunk last year. I will say this, though. I think the Titans and the Bears are roughly even. I do. Because the Chicago Bears last year had the 12th ranked defense in the NFL. The Titans had the 18th ranked defense. But the Titans have added Chidobe Awuzie, and they've added L'Jarius Sneed and Ernest Jones and Quandre Diggs and the corpse of Jamal Adams and everything else. They've put Tavondre Sweat. So I think defense is probably roughly the same. I mean, again, Kevin Byard, he sucked so bad they got rid of him for a bag of footballs around here, even though I thought he was much better than that. He's on the Bears. DeMarcus Walker, the Titans had no interest in retaining. He starts for the Bears. So it's not like this is the 85 Bears defense, even though Dave Wanstead went on Robbie and Joe's show and basically said that today. On offense, I do think the Bears receivers are better than the Titans receivers. Like if I had to pick between DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze versus DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Boyd, and Calvin Ridley, I would take the Chicago receivers because DJ Moore, in my opinion, is the only true number one receiver of the group. But I don't think that DeAndre Swift is that much better than Tony Pollard. I don't think the Bears' offensive line that's got Braxton Jones, who's an average, really to below average left tackle, and Nate Davis, I don't think that that's much better than the Titans' offensive line. And again, each team has a young quarterback. Like the Titans have a young quarterback. Maybe he ends up being good. I don't know. And the Bears have a young quarterback. But where I really have a hard time with all this Chicago Bears hype, and nobody seems to talk about this, the coach has won 10 games over 2 years. 10 games. And I know the Titans haven't, Brian Callahan hasn't coached a game. I get that. But it's like if you win 5 games over 2 years, you stink. And Eberflus is a defensive coach. I have no idea why they kept him. I do not understand it. And so I think the Titans and the Bears are roughly even with maybe a little tick to the Bears. But this idea, like Chicago, they're a 4.5 point favorite now. They're probably I think they're going to close at 6. I think it's crazy. And I don't think the Bears are that good. And I don't think the Bears are making the playoffs. I think the Bears are either 3rd or 4th in that division. They're certainly behind Detroit. I would say they're probably behind Green Bay. And I like Sam Darnold. So they're probably even with Minnesota, if not Minnesota better. I think that they're even with the Titans. By the way, okay. Joe, are you the national college football writer for the New York Times now?
No, I'm not but I have switched to national college football writer.
So you don't cover the Titans anymore?
I mean, I still will, but it'll be a bit less.
Oh my God! Is anybody going to cover the Titans for the Athletic anymore?
I mean, we haven't had a Titans beat writer since John Glennon in 2020.
Yeah, but at least you were a columnist that covered the Titans.
Yeah, I'll still write about the Titans sometimes.
I'm talking with 2 people right now that don't cover the Titans anymore. It just breaks my heart.
I cover the Titans in my heart.
I'm sorry.
Caroline, what's next?
Okay, Jared, you go first for this one. Speaking of the Chicago Bears hype and all the love that the Bears are getting this preseason, is the Caleb Williams hype real?
I mean, the hype is, yes, that is real. I mean, these people will not shut up. I mean, Colin Cowherd had Tom Brady on his show and was like, I can't wait to watch the Chicago Bears on Sunday. So that is a real thing. Now, is it justified? I mean, I'm talking to a national college football reporter that told me he'd trade the entire farm to go get Bryce Young. And I don't think it was Bryce's fault. But Bryce was not all that in a bag of chips last year. And he was the number one pick, and he was the former Heisman Trophy winner. And granted, Caleb is in a much better situation, even though his coach is kind of a bozo and comes from the coach.
Much better.
Yes, absolutely. But the coach is still a bozo and comes from the bozo coach that Bryce Young had. I mean, again, there hasn't been a number one quarterback to win his debut since David Carr did it in 2002 when the Texans started their franchise. That's how long it's been since a number one quarterback's been able to do that. The hype for Caleb is, again, it's Andrew Luck level hype. And I am not convinced that he's an Andrew Luck level talent. And he is. Like, if I had picked first, even with the black nails, the purse, the disappointing college season, the crying in the stands, the not answering press conference questions, the not taking the medical at the combine, I still would have taken him number one overall because he is that kind of talent. But he's not John Elway, Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, and that's what they're talking about him like. So, yeah, the hype is real, like the stoking of the flames. But is there real reason for that hype? I don't think he's that good. I think he's like Jameis Winston, maybe worse, coming out.
But Caroline, your question is the hype justified, right? Isn't that what you mean?
That's fair. Yes, that is what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, so I think the one thing you've talked, Jared, some about, like, why are people, hyping like this? I think that it's because he reminds people of Patrick Mahomes, and obviously that's an incredibly unfair comparison for anyone, but just in terms of what he does on the field, and in particular, the off-schedule, on-the-move, different arm slot throws that he makes that are absurd. I mean, I think because Patrick Mahomes has become, the best quarterback in the NFL, and he's on his way to being the best quarterback ever in the NFL, I think that's why, because there are some comparisons with Caleb Williams and him. I hear you on Jameis Winston. I mean, obviously, he and Marcus Mariota both were people celebrated. They went 1-2 for a reason. There were still, first of all, there were like questions about Jameis Winston, like character stuff, the crab legs, and there was a sexual assault accusation. So there was other stuff with Jameis Winston and interception things, which obviously really got significant in the NFL, but certainly a tremendous talent. I mean, he's still a tremendous talent. But I think Caleb Williams is still a much cleaner prospect than him overall, top to bottom. I mean, a lot of people think he's a generational player, and I think sometimes that word gets overused. But I don't know that when's the last quarterback who was as hyped as him? Like Bryce Young. You're right. I absolutely love Bryce Young. What's that?
Lawrence.
Yeah, that's probably right. That's probably right. And of course, he has been fine. And that's the thing. So, to answer the question, yeah, I mean, I think it's justified in terms of how he played at USC and his traits. I mean, I think he's handled everything really well too. I mean,
I don't think so. You think it's justified by what he did at USC? You think this hype is justified by what he did at USC?
Well, USC had issues, man. USC was one of the worst defensive teams I've ever seen last year. So if you're going to talk wins and losses, don't forget that. I mean, Jaden Daniels played, as Caroline knows well, played for a 3-loss team last year that darn well should not have been a 3-loss team, but they couldn't tackle anybody. So, I don't knock Jaden Daniels for that. He was tremendous last year. I mean, I think Caleb Williams wasn't perfect, but if you watched him play, I mean, he won the Heisman the year before last year, right? It was yes, he has to win the Heisman. Yeah, I think what he did at USC, it's not surprising to me that he's hyped like this.
I don't know. He didn't even win Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year last year. They didn't win a lot of games last year.
A year after winning the Heisman.
I know, but even then, when they played in the Pac-12 championship, he didn't win it for them. It's like, I'm not saying winning in college is everything, because Tom Brady, yeah, he was the MVP of the Orange Bowl, but Tom Brady didn't win a national title at Michigan. And again, we can use Jameis Winston as the example. Jameis Winston did win, a national title at Florida State. But at the same time, like when you win the national title and you play in the conference championship game with a trip to go to the playoff, and I know he was like coming back from a hamstring injury or whatever in that Pac-12 championship game, but they got smoked in that Pac-12 title game by Utah, and they don't make the playoff. And then you come back the next year and you don't lead your team to any good wins. Like, I'm sorry, that's not good enough. That's not Andrew Luck level. That's not, and I know Peyton lost to Florida, but Peyton, did win some big college games. That's not good enough. That is not good enough.
Okay, and Patrick Mahomes went, 7-5? Okay.
Patrick Mahomes wasn't the number one pick, though. Like, we're talking about the hype justified for the number one pick based off of what they did in college. I mean, I remember the day after Mahomes was picked on TV, not to say that Shannon Sharp, Chris Carter, and Skip Bayless are the three greatest analysts of all time, but two of those guys do have gold jackets. And they sat there and they were like, of the three quarterbacks, Trubisky, Watson, and Mahomes, who was going to be the best? And they just crapped all over Mahomes. The Big 12 offense won't work in the NFL. And why does Andy Reid have to sit him on the bench? So there was no hype there. You're telling me the hype is justified because of what he did at SC. And I didn't think what he did at SC was all that good. It was good, but it wasn't all that good.
Again, you're isolating what I said. Yeah, I said what he did. You said the traits are the big thing. I mean, he has demonstrated with his traits, with his tremendously high level of talent, that he can be a great quarterback in the NFL. Will he be? I have no idea. He has the tools to do that. And you're acting like he never demonstrated that in college. Was he perfect? No. And if you want to knock him for not winning that game, I mean, he had some games where he could have done more. He missed a throw late or whatever. But again, like, you can nitpick a lot of guys. You can nitpick most guys on stuff like that, other than the guys who played for incredible monster teams like, Tua and Jalen Hurts and Watson and Trevor. I mean, most of these guys in the league, you can find bad performances and multiple losses and things like that. The traits are there.
Yeah, but Trevor won a national title as a true freshman.
Okay. Do you think that was all Trevor?
No, but Trevor made the playoffs every year.
And you're seeing Trevor now, and he's a good quarterback. So do you think that was Trevor, or do you think that he was on such a monster team at that time? And, it's hard to remember when Dabo had a program like that, but it was then.
No, my point is
just about every spot.
My point is what Trevor did in college is what fueled the idea that he was a generational draft prospect.
But it wasn't just that.
But what Caleb did in college is nowhere near what Trevor did in college.
Well, the athleticism, size, arm, all that of Trevor. I mean, yeah, the winning, of course, it's great if you can do it. But even though some guys knock Patrick Mahomes, there are also people who thought he was going to be amazing because of his traits. And like I said, going back to the beginning, Patrick Mahomes working out as he has in the NFL and the obvious comparisons between their skill sets is a huge part of why he's hyped the way he is.
More Jared versus Joe to continue next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Jared versus Joe is presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Caroline.
All right, I had to bring this question back. Joe, you go first. Today, you have to pick right now. You are making your team today, right now, for the rest of the season. Who are you picking and who is better, in your opinion, today? Caleb Williams or Mason Rudolph?
Good God. I mean, I'm not answering a Mason Rudolph question. So if you want to give Jared, it's fine. Give Jared the win. I mean, like, Mason Rudolph, that's fine. I'll lose. I mean, it's so dumb. Like, Jared's still talking about Mason Rudolph. I got on with Ian before this started because I was listening to this before this started, and I'm like, Ian, he's still talking about freaking Mason Rudolph, and we laughed heartily at your expense, Jared. So that's fine.
Can I just ask a question though about your ever moving goalpost?
Doing?
Can I ask about your ever moving goalpost when it involves Rudolph? And
you can say whatever you want, dude.
So you said top 3, then you said top 4, then you said top 10, then you adamantly.
Sure.
We keep playing a cut from me on your show on Friday where I kept asking Robbie, to answer, by what metric are we judging this Mason Rudolph as a top 10 backup quarterback thing by? Because, again, apparently wins don't count, and I guess money doesn't count, even though he's. So
do you think that any listener, if I listen to your show or my show and this is coming up again, I want to pull my hair out. Like, what are we doing? This is such a colossal, abominable waste of time. It really is.
Okay.
Who gives a crap? One day I said one thing. Do you want to start dissecting little random crap you say here and there? I don't give
we should.
a flying
I think we should do that.
That's the best thing your show does, Joe.
What?
The best thing your show does is talk about things I say.
We haven't talked about you all damn week, and it's been great.
I highly doubt that.
I do.
I turn the show on in the morning. Like, say I wake up like 7:13. I turn the show on, and within the segment of which I turn it on, there is a reference to something that I said or did or think. But I go back to this. What metric are we basing this off of? And nobody can answer that to me. And I'm trying to find objective metrics that tell us what matters.
Weeks later, you're talking about some ranking of backup quarterbacks, which was, again, like a 10-second conversation on our program. Like, a guy, what is it? Hey, let's go. Let's talk about a few of these guys. Yeah, I don't know. I don't give a crap. If you want to do a fully fleshed out, get your PFF out. You like to use a little PFF.
Well, I'm using the money.
Argument.
I'm using the money. Davis Mills just signed for $5 million today for next season.
That's fantastic, Jared.
And that is double what Mason Rudolph is making right now. So is Davis Mills double the backup that Mason Rudolph is, or does that not count?
Sure. Let's go with that. He's double the backup. There you go. Because salary in this league absolutely corresponds directly to quality of player. That's a very smart argument. Keep it going. This is really good. I'm sure the listeners are enjoying the hell out of this. I mean, it's just like, who gives a flying F about this? And you keep bringing it up. Like, what is your problem? What is wrong with you? I'd like to know.
It was a bad take you had, and you won't admit that it was a bad take. So instead of admitting that it was a bad take, no matter what research I do, you then turn it into, everybody hates this talk, because you don't want to answer the question about what metric it is, and you don't want to raise your hand and say it was a bad take on Mason Rudolph. If you raise your hand right now and say it was a bad take, I will concede Jared versus Joe right now, right here for today. Just say it was a bad opinion, Joe.
What I'm going to say is I am in somewhat fear for you. I am slightly concerned about you.
So who do you think is better between Williams and Levis?
Well, again, if the question is if you're trying to go today, win a game, I will take the guy who has played in an NFL game, always. Well, as long as he's shown some competence in an NFL game, which Will Levis has. So I'll go with Will Levis.
I'll take Caleb Williams because, again, Levis has played 9 games.
Who you just crapped on, but yeah, okay, so either you love him, you hate him, okay.
I mean, again, I will argue that Caleb Williams, again, Levis he's not a rookie, but he is essentially, this is his first full season of starting. And Levis never did any of the things Caleb Williams did in college. Like, was never that kind of player. I mean, the Titans took a freaking guard before they took Will Levis in the draft. Caleb Williams would have gone number 1 to the Titans. If the Titans had made the trade with Carolina the year before and had the number 1 pick in this year's draft, in spite of the fact that they had a young quarterback in Levis, they would have used the number 1 overall pick, I am convinced, on Caleb Williams. And that is because they probably think, like everybody else, that Caleb Williams is better than Will Levis.
Yeah,
so,
right. So again, I think Caleb Williams is a better prospect, and I would choose him among the two. So it comes down to the question. Caroline's asking I believe, one day, one game, who are you going to take? I'll take the guy who's played football. But yes, I agree that Caleb Williams is the better prospect, and he's hyped, and the hype is justified. So when it suits your argument, you can talk about that, or you can flip it around when it doesn't.
Again, I just want to know the metric that we decide these things by. When you just say like,
this
is bad radio. Oh, this is so bad.
No, I mean, it's really good. I mean, I think we should keep talking about Mason Rudolph and where he ranks among backups.
I think you should pull up the text line after this, because you're going to get triggered when you go on the text line and you see the things that are being said. Caroline, what's next?
All right, so Joe and I are national college football commentators and writers. Gurus. Thank you very much. Jared, you go first. Should Dabo Swinney get fired?
So I said this. I don't know what the buyout is and the booster situation and all of that, but I said to Trevor yesterday, if I was the king of Clemson, like I get to pick, I'd fire Dabo Swinney because it's not good now and it ain't getting any better. And he ain't changing. Like I'm telling you guys right now, he has made it abundantly clear. Saturday was the day where it was, is there any chance that your way could work? And the answer is no. And I know guys like this. What does Chris Sanders always say when you're backed in a corner and you've got to make a choice? You got 2 choices. And what are the 2 choices?
Get bitter or get better.
Get bitter or get better. Clark Lee got put in that corner after that 2-10 season. Clark had 2 choices. He could get bitter or he could get better. Clark could have said, nope, I know my way at Vanderbilt will work, and we're going to try it again. But he didn't. He decided, nope, I guess I'm done with trying to run the team. I'm taking over the defense. Jerry Kill, you and Tim Beck are taking over the offense. Go bring me your quarterback. Let's go. And that is a night and day different Vanderbilt team. Dabo's way does not work. I don't give a rat's ass that you beat Duke. It does not work. And so, but he won't do it. I don't believe. I don't believe in going and getting guys out the transfer portal. I want to get my own guys. Okay, well, Nick Saban got Jahmyr Gibbs out of the transfer portal. And Kirby Smart got 2 receivers that caught touchdown passes out of the transfer portal. And Texas got A.D. Mitchell and Quinn Ewers out of the transfer portal. And it's the game, guys. Michael Penix, where did he come from? He didn't just show up in Washington. And he won't change. And he has made it abundantly clear. He won't change. So if this were 2018 and we were playing with 2018 rules, then I'd say Dabo's a good coach. But it is not going to get better at Clemson because he's not going to change. So, yes, again, I don't know the buyout and the money and I'd fire him.
And that point is made funnier by the fact that Clemson did not, in fact, beat Duke last season.
Did they not? Did they lose to Duke?
They lost to Duke, yes.
And they'll lose to him again.
I wouldn't fire him right now, but he has to change. I mean, look, they paid a lot of NIL to keep guys who would have gone elsewhere in the portal. They have a talented team. What has happened to Clemson, and the portal stuff is dumb, and he obviously has to adjust. You can't just be closed off to it. You have to adjust. And if he won't, then at some point it gets to firing. But the biggest issue for Clemson is, they go Watson and Lawrence back-to-back, and then you get 2 more 5-stars in a row, and both of them just are not good enough. DJU, your guys' favorite quarterback, obviously not good enough. And Klubnik isn't the guy. I mean, the other day they actually had opportunities in the first half to take a lead, to be in that game, to get some points on the board. He's just not the guy. So they've failed twice on 2 straight quarterbacks. I'm assuming that's more evaluation than development, although, again, like lots of people evaluated those guys as future stars in the college game. The quarterback position is the biggest problem for Dabo Swinney, but he's got to adjust to the portal. They still have a lot of things going for them if they got quarterback figured out, that they could certainly be a playoff level team at this point. I don't know that they get back to what they were, but I'm not firing him right now. I mean, I'm seeing obviously how this season works out. I mean, I don't know if are you talking like at the end of the season?
Like, do you think there's any chance that Dabo's going to turn things around ever?
A chance? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, he has to be, if he is, as you said, just going to be like, no, thank you, then no, it won't be good enough. But again, that team, we focus on the portal, and it's stupid, and there's like 4 teams that got nobody on the portal, and that shouldn't be the case. But like that team with a good quarterback is absolutely a playoff team.
Absolutely a playoff team?
Oh, I think so. I mean, they
if
got
you put
pros on
Shedeur
defense.
Sanders as the quarterback of Clemson, you think that they are absolutely a playoff team?
Heck yes.
You think they are absolutely
yes.
better than Miami, because the ACC is getting 1 team in the playoff. So you have to be better than Miami, and you think they are absolutely better than Miami if Shedeur Sanders is the quarterback of that team.
But see, they're a playoff quality team without question. They have pros on defense. Phil Maffa is a stud at running back. The receivers are young. They have talent there. The roster is still loaded with talent. If they had Shedeur Sanders at quarterback, yes, I'd pick them to win the ACC, and they would be a playoff team.
I will say this. I do think they'd be a lot better with Shedeur at quarterback than Cade Klubnik. But in the case of Florida State, I think DJ Uiagalelei is the problem. Again, there are other problems there, like their defensive line can't stop anybody. But I do think that he is the problem. I don't think Clemson's problem is Cade Klubnik. Their problem is Dabo. That's their problem. And to sit there and say that, no, it's not Dabo, it's the quarterback. No, it's the coach. I cannot get on board with it being the quarterback's fault.
Well, he's not very good. Florida State's problem is Mike Norvell.
No, it is not.
No, it's not.
Sure it is.
It is DJ Uiagalelei 1,000%.
Oh, my God, guys.
Alabama tried to hire Mike Norvell.
Last year, he went 10-3 at Oregon State and was good.
I think they were 8-5.
Florida. Okay, if that's they had a good season. He had a good season. He had good numbers. Go look at his numbers. He was bad the other night. He was terrible the other night. He's not good enough. But how could you have a defensive line that's supposed to be this good and you're giving up 240 yards a game right now? Mike Norvell had one incredible portal haul, and where's the rest of his high school recruiting right now? You're telling me he's not the problem? He is the problem.
Caroline, who wins this week?
So, after a lot of consideration, Jared does win this week for a couple of reasons. Dabo is so the problem at Clemson. They have not started a transfer portal player in 6 years.
They
lost 12 players to the transfer portal this past season. You cannot win when you don't exercise all of your resources to win. Like Dabo says that they're doing the best thing for Clemson. No, they're not. They're not doing the best thing for Clemson. He's doing the best thing for himself. And also Joe's take about I'll take the quarterback that's played more football in the NFL over the unknown commodity. I don't agree with. Like I would take Caleb Williams over Russell Wilson today and not
Daniel Jones
over it. Well, just because Daniel Jones has played football doesn't make him a very good quarterback.
I did say a quarterback who had showed some competence. I guess Daniel Jones did a couple years ago. But no, I don't disagree on Dabo.
Has shown some competence.
I'm not saying Dabo doesn't need to get in the portal. He is absolutely, he needs to change that. I'm just saying, like, the quarterback position. Well, okay. Well, then fire him. If he won't do it, if he will never do it, then at some point he'll be fired. Would I fire him right now? No.
I mean, if I looked at him right now, if I was the king of Clemson and I sat down with him and I said, Dabo, are you going to, like, truly invest in the transfer portal going forward? And if he said anything but, yes, sir, Mr. Stillman, I'd fire him. Like right on the spot. And you make it sound like
No,
he's going to do that. He's not going to do that. I mean, he's
Isn't-
told
he
you he's
has
not.
not done it in 6 years.
I have no idea.
I mean, he's going down with the ship. Guys, thank you so much. Jared versus Joe is presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. I got to tell you, Joe is not the only person who, now Joe said Dabo is the problem while arguing that Dabo is not the problem. But I was so disappointed yesterday by somebody whose opinion I respect dearly regarding Dabo. We will get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. If I was king of Clemson, I'd fire Dabo at the end of the year. He, to me, just is not interested in what it takes to win anymore, and he's not going to be. And I'm sure they've got some kind of ridiculous buyout so they can't do it. But his time has passed. I am done with Dabo. Is that a hot take?
That's a super hot take. It's a steaming hot take. A lot of people agree with you, maybe most. I see it differently. I wouldn't be surprised if in 4 or 5 years we see that Dabo actually has the last laugh. The reason is he just doesn't want to bring in transfers. And most coaches have decided either that they want to bring in a few transfers to finish out the roster, or if you're Deion Sanders in Colorado,
Trevor, wouldn't
you
that
want
be
to
like if you
replace
were
the
a
whole team
radio
every year.
host? Would that be like if you were a radio host in Nashville and it's like, he's a good radio host, he just doesn't want to talk about the Titans? It's like, well, guess what?
No.
Like, I hate to break it to you, but you ain't going to be very good if you do that.
No, because that's not what he's doing. I don't know that that's an apples to apples thing. Because what he's saying is the better way to develop a program for the long term is to bring in high school recruits, develop them, and have them playing for you for several years. He doesn't bring in transfers, but he doesn't lose very many either. And having that culture and the experience, et cetera, will ultimately allow them to be more successful and occasionally rise up to compete for a conference and national championship. Well, right now that hasn't been working very well, but that's not to say that it won't.
It won't.
So I'm not ready to write him off yet, because culture is something, and we don't really know the full ramifications yet of bringing in a whole lot of transfers. We saw Florida State brought in a really bunch of outstanding transfers on both sides of the ball, and so far it's been a miserable flop.
I am so disappointed in Trevor. Now, Joe Rexroad just lost Jared versus Joe because Joe tried to make the argument that Cade Klubnik, the quarterback, is the problem at Clemson, and it's not Dabo. And it didn't hit me until Caroline said that in 6 years, Dabo Swinney has not taken one player out of the portal. It's one thing if you're 35 years old and you're waiting until marriage to have sex for the first time, because that's personal. That's your decision about you. If you're saying, I'm waiting until marriage, or I'm waiting for the right one, or whatever it may be, that's your business. But Dabo is in charge of an entire team, of an entire school, of an entire fan base, and an entire state. And so when you're telling me Dabo Swinney is so against transfer portal, but you think that he might be able to work his way through it, I am just so disappointed. I'm not surprised at Joe to sit there and say, well, I wouldn't fire him right now, but this was the but. I remember when Kentucky basketball lost to, who was it they lost to this year, Ian? Was it Oakland?
In the tournament?
Yeah, I think it was Oakland.
That sounds about right.
They lost, I think it was Oakland this year. I forget who it was last year. It was St. Peter's 2 years ago. And they lost, and I was listening to Matt Jones, the Kentucky Sports Radio postgame show, and, somebody called, was like, this is the last time for Calipari. This season is it for Calipari. I tell you what now. And Matt Jones like, that's great, but didn't we say that after last year? Didn't we say after last year that was going to be, that this was going to be the year for Cal? And they still lost in the first round to Oakland. And then even though they didn't fire him, it was time for Calipari to go. Now, Dabo's not going anywhere because I looked it up during the break. Ian, do you know what Dabo's buyout is?
I don't know. I would just be guessing.
Guess.
50 mil.
Higher.
75.
Lower.
60.
Bingo. That's for if they fire him this year. If they fire him next year, guess what it is?
40.
Higher.
50.
Higher.
60 again.
Bingo. If they wait until 2026 to fire him, go.
50.
Higher.
60 again.
Lower.
55.
Higher.
57.
Bingo. So if they fire him this year at 60, if they fire him next year at 60, if they fire him the year after that, it's 57. They sign him to this ridiculous contract in 2022 when he already wasn't going to the transfer portal. He won't do it. He won't do it. And I'm fine with Joe doing his, could Dabo? Sure. What I'm not okay with is Trevor. I value Trevor's opinion. And Trevor is sitting there trying to argue with me. No. Dabo can do this even if he doesn't go in the portal. Guys, it's over. Like, it's not Billy Napier because Dabo's at least had a little bit of success. But the sport that Dabo had success in, it doesn't exist anymore. That's why Nick Saban's not coaching, because he doesn't want to do it. Because what he was used to doing for the previous 40 years, he could do. But he didn't want to do this now. And Harbaugh went to the pros. He didn't want to do it. Dabo's Billy Napier in this era of college football. And they lost to Duke. Unbelievable. 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company, 1025, 106 for the game. Stillman and Company, we went long in Jared versus Joe, and because Joe's Dabo Sweeney take, which was the last question, which is usually a smaller one, but that was so ridiculous that we went long on that, and then I was so disappointed between that and Trevor. I mean, I really wasn't disappointed with Joe. Not surprised. It's unfortunate. But Trevor, I was disappointed with his Dabo Sweeney takes. So that's going to do it for us. But I will say tomorrow is our annual NFL predictions program. And we will go over last season's predictions, which I'm sure were terrible. But we will most importantly start tomorrow. I will pick every single NFL game for the season. And we will do it tomorrow, starting at 2 o'clock. One more sleep, and football season is here. Ladies and gentlemen, so close. That's it for us. We're out here. ESPN Radio's next.